Good evening and welcome to the Yountville Town Council meeting for Tuesday, December 1st, 2020. I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Before I ask for a roll call, I will read some of the protocols that we will be following for this teleconference meeting. This regular meeting of the Town Council is being held pursuant to Government Code Section 54953B related to teleconferencing of meetings. In addition, this meeting format is pursuant to the Governor's proclamation of a state emergency and executive orders where certain sections of the Brown Act relating to teleconference meetings have been waived. Town manager is present in his office. I am present in the council chambers, and Vice Mayor Dorman, Council Members Moeller, Dornbecker, and Council Member-elect Knight, along with staff, are participating remotely by video, audio, in conformance with the governor's executive order, even though several of them appear to be in the council chambers with me, but that's all virtual. Believe me, I'm here alone. Next up, I will go ahead and ask for our town clerk, Michelle, to conduct the roll call and ask each member of the town council to respond to the following questions. Are you able to hear the proceedings, and do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting? Michelle.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Dornbecker.
Yes to both.
Councilmember Moeller.
Yes to both.
Vice Mayor Dorman.
Yes to both.
Councilmember-elect Knight.
Yes to both.
Mayor Dunbar.
Yes, I'm here.
And let the record reflect that Councilmember Durham is excused.
Thank you. And the record does reflect that all council members that will be participating in tonight's meeting have indicated they were able to hear each other and have the agenda. In general, members of the public have been able to provide public comment via the public comment at yville.com email address, and we do have some of those that have been submitted prior to the meeting. Before we proceed with the agenda, I'll remind our viewers to note any vote taken during this teleconference portion of the meeting will be taken by a roll call vote by the town clerk. In addition, public hearing and administrative regular items have representatives that are not staff will provide presentations as they would during a typical council meeting held in the council chambers and will be called upon to speak during their agenda item. And with all of that and our roll call having been established, I'll invite our council member-elect Eric Knight to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor, for the honor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we will, go to item 4, proclamations and recognitions. We do not have any tonight. Next is the canvass of the election results. I will now turn to our town clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. The item before you is an item to canvass the election results and adopt resolution number 20-4022, reciting the fact of the consolidated general municipal election held on November 3rd, 2020, and declaring the result and such other matters as provided by law. We had 4 individuals running for 2 council member seats: Jeffrey Durham, Eric Knight, Marjorie Moeller, and Scott Owens. And we also had ballot measure T, which was regulation and taxation of cannabis retail business. At the time of the election, we had 1,989 registered voters, and of those, 1,744 people cast their vote. And that results in a voter turnout of 87.68%. The votes provided for each of the candidates is Margie Moeller, 838, Eric Knight, 762, Jeffrey Durham, 662, and Scott Owens, 500. The top 2 vote getters are those individuals who are elected to council this evening. For ballot measure T, there were 551 votes cast in favor and 1,102 votes cast in opposition, so that measure failed. Total votes for the ballot measure were 1,653. If there are no questions related to this staff report, I would be asking council to adopt this resolution approving the election and the results of the election. And then from there, we would move on to administer the oath of office to our newly electeds. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll ask if there are any questions from the council on the canvas. Seeing none, I just realized I needed to put my participants window up to look for the blue hands. Also, Michelle, do we have any public comment on this item?
Thanks for asking. No, we don't, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. With that, then I'll entertain a motion to accept the election results as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Dornbecker, second by Vice Mayor Dorman. Roll call vote. Michelle, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Dornbecker.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dorman.
Aye.
Councilmember Moeller.
Yes.
Mayor Dunbar.
Yes.
And Councilmember Durham is excused.
Yes, thank you. So that does pass 4-0.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and congratulations
Thank you.
to our re-elected and newly re-elected, sort of, what are we calling you, Eric? Returned elected knight. Congratulations. So with that, we will be doing the ceremonial oaths of office next. We will also, just for the record, Michelle, do you want to do that after you do the oath in terms of recognizing Councilmember-elect Knight after the oath?
Yes, we can do that item after number 6, yes.
Okay, so Michelle, please go ahead with the oaths of office.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor. Councilmember Moeller, we will start with you. And congratulations, and if I could have you raise your right hand and repeat after me.
Make sure I can get it in the screen without being fuzzy. There we go.
There you go, good job. I, Marjorie A. Moeller, do solemnly swear
I, Marjorie A. Moeller, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we will administer the oath to Councilmember-elect Eric Knight. And if I could have you raise your right hand. Thank you, and congratulations to you as well. I, Eric E. Knight, do solemnly swear
I, Eric E. Knight, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Very good. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. That,
Congratulations. Yeah, thank you, Michelle. Thanks very
you're
much.
welcome.
And I'm
Congratulations.
sorry to interrupt, Mayor.
Yeah.
Michelle, there seems to be an issue with the live stream. It's not coming through clearly. And I called James. He mentioned this happened before and we had to stop and restart.
Okay, so I think I can actually do that. So let me see if I can do that without disconnecting us.
Okay. It's just coming through all pixelated.
No, I totally remember that. So thank you.
We also were experiencing a little bit of audio delay. All the words of the oath were audible, but there was a little bit of a delay in there that had not been happening. So this might get clear that up as well.
Yes, and so what I am going to do is I might have to go here. I'm probably going to stop and start if you don't mind. Is that okay?
Yeah, so are you talking about two different recordings then?
Yeah, I'm not finding the one that I need, so I'm going to need to do it a different way. So hang on just one moment. Sam, can you tell me now if it's working?
Second. Yes, it's better now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so we will proceed until Samantha tells us to stop again. Hopefully
Thank you
that
very
won't be
much, ma'am.
necessary. All right, we will proceed. I was just about to say congratulations, Councilmember Moeller, and congratulations, Councilmember Knight, for your successful elections. We are looking forward to our continued efforts on behalf of our entire Yountville community. And obviously, Councilmember Moeller, your continued service, and Councilmember Knight for your return to service, very much appreciated. Councilmember Moeller, if you wanted to share any quick thought, and then I'll ask Councilmember Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like the opportunity. I am incredibly grateful to so many who supported me in my bid for re-election this year. My husband, my friends, my supporters, and those who felt they really needed to share lots of advice and as well as encouragement. I would also like to acknowledge all the other candidates this year. We all shared a common goal to serve the residents of Yountville. It's really nice to see people stepping forward. I look forward to the opportunity in my next term to do good things for my community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Knight.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First, I want to thank all Yountville voters for voting this election. 3 of the 4 precincts reported more than 90% participation. Congratulations to Councilmember Marjorie Moeller, I look forward to working with you in the years to come. And I want to also thank Councilmember Jeff Durham for his leadership and commitment to our community, and especially a thank you for your leadership and determination to continue the community Thanksgiving meal, especially this year. I know more than 120 residents received a special meal this year. I would also like to thank Scott Owens for running for Town Council. I look forward to conversations with you and your thoughts and ideas, and look forward to your continued involvement in the community. Thank you to all. We have many challenges ahead in 2021. I will make the time to listen to your perspectives and ideas. As I have mentioned before, we are fortunate to have very professional and very caring town staff. I am proud to join with the mayor and other council members to represent Yountville. For the residents that provided unending encouragement and support to me this fall, I am very grateful for your support. And lastly, but not leastly, I want to thank Peggy and my 3 daughters for their love, their patience, and unending support. To all in our beautiful town, happy holidays, best wishes for good health, happiness, and renewal in 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Knight. I would like to offer, since normally when we're in person, we take a little break and welcome and share a little bit of camaraderie. Just want to offer if either Councilmember Dornbecker or Vice Mayor Dorman would like to share any thoughts. We'll start with Councilmember Dornbecker.
Well, thank you. As I have said in the past, the people who sit on the dais with me are all here because we all care about this town very much. Welcome, Eric, and welcome again, Marjorie. I think that we have our work cut out for us this year, but I'm very glad to be a part of this team, and I look forward to working with you to do the best that we can for our town. And with the kind of staff that we have, they're all the best in the world. So I think that we're in good hands with them. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Dorman.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, hearty congratulations to you both, Councilmember Mueller, Councilmember Knight, and in absentia, a thank you to Councilmember Durham for his service to the town. When I first ran for office, my mother said to me, "Why in the world would you want to be on a town council?" I can now say it was a good decision, and I am so happy that both of you have made this decision again after you knew what it was all about, after you knew the highs and the lows, to come back and again put yourselves out to serve your community. Thank you so much. I know I speak for everyone in our community, and I so look forward to working with both of you. Thank you.
And I'll just very, very briefly share similar thoughts, which is we have a tradition of real strong collaboration and partnerships on the town council, and I'm very proud of that, and I expect that will continue. That's the best way we can all as a group serve our community, and it's important that we do in fact represent our entire community. So I look forward to continuing that service. It'll be interesting, Councilmember Knight, to hear from you how things are similar and things are different this term for you. And so certainly Zoom didn't exist, and sometimes we wish it still didn't exist, but that is our reality for now. And we do look forward to when we can all come together in person in this council chambers and continue to serve the residents, businesses of Yountville. So again, welcome to both of you. So
Thank you.
With that, we'll move on to the next item, which is the appointment of the vice mayor to the town council. And I am going to go ahead and read a statement to that effect. The appointment of vice mayor has been based on the mayor's determination of whom he or she believes is the best choice at the time to support the mayor and represent the council in the mayor's absence. The mayor's choice used to be accepted without challenge by the council. Recently, the appointment of vice mayor has become politically charged. That was very evident during this last election cycle, especially in other neighboring city councils. I don't want to see that trend continue in Yountville. I used to not support the process of a rotational appointment, but my opinion has changed. I now support rotating the appointment based on seniority of sitting council members who have not yet served a full 2-year term as vice mayor. I've asked the town manager to research how we can modify our council protocols to modify this process in the future. I do believe rotating the role helps educate each council member more broadly about the details and skills of chairing a meeting, as well as being prepared to support the mayor and in some cases fill in for the mayor as needed. Sharing the responsibility will increase the preparedness of each council member who serves as vice mayor. It's important that the vice mayor be experienced in the practical processes of the council meetings. Running a meeting is more involved and requires experience interacting with staff and this technology, especially in the circumstances we face with the pandemic public health protocols. The vice mayor is automatically appointed to some town and county agencies, so current awareness of the issues at hand is important, and that is best achieved with experience. A related example is how the Napa County supervisors automatically rotate the board chair each year. Councilmember Dornbecker served well in her 2 years as vice chair or as vice mayor. While incoming Councilmember Knight served on this body 20 years ago, I believe it's best for him and the council that he take time to get caught up to speed on the processes and issues that we deal with today, which in some cases are quite different than when he previously served. When I nominated Carrie Dorman, I felt confident that she could serve as vice mayor despite her short tenure on the council at the time. It may have been unfair of me to put pressure on Vice Mayor Dorman to accelerate her learning of all the general expectations of a council member and add the additional responsibilities of supporting me and the rest of the council as vice mayor, but she has done so impressively and with the energy and focus I expected. I trusted Carrie's professional experience in the legal sector to help her understand and handle the unique municipal process. Frankly, I was right in believing Vice Mayor Dorman would serve the role extremely well. I thank her for the time, attention to detail, and commitment to representing our community as she has shown during her tenure as vice mayor. Based on the criteria and circumstances I just described, this year I'm nominating the most senior council member who has not yet served a full term as vice mayor, Margie Moeller, to be the next vice mayor. Councilmember Moeller served approximately 7 months as vice mayor to complete an unexpired term, but this would be her first full term. After my 16 years on the town council, she is the most senior member of the council. During her tenure, I have seen Margie develop the skills needed to run municipal government meetings, including in her role representing Yountville on local and statewide LAFCO boards, as well as on the Upper Valley Disposal Board. Therefore, I make the motion to appoint Councilmember Margie Moeller as vice mayor for the next 2-year term. I'll entertain a second to that motion if there is one.
Thank you, John, and I would consider it an honor to second that motion.
Thank you. So there is a motion by me and a second by Councilmember Moeller. Is there any discussion? Actually, I should ask Michelle, is there any public comment on this item?
No, there is not, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Dornbecker?
Yes, this is a surprise. I had no idea that there was going to be this kind of a change. I honestly, I do believe that Margie is very skilled and her representation on LAFCO has been really outstanding. But I would like to offer another
It would be a substitute motion. Is that what you're
substitute
proposing?
motion and re-nominate Vice Mayor Dorman. I think she's done an outstanding job, and she's really done so much with so much energy. I think that she, if you want to institute this change in the protocols, I think that we really need to have more time to digest that. And so I would like to make a motion to appoint Carrie Dorman as vice mayor.
And before I ask for a second, I'm not proposing that the protocols are changed. That's why I said in the future. That's just my recommendation right now, that we go to a rotational appointment. That's not on the table tonight. What is on the table is my recommendation of the appointment. So it's to not confuse the two. I see Councilmember Knight's hand is raised. Do you have a statement, or is there a motion?
Yes.
To second?
I just want to be sure. Okay, there we go. Well, I definitely would look forward next year to looking at the town protocols, especially for the selection of the vice mayor. I know in a lot of different communities, there's different, it's done different ways, and including the example that you, Mayor, used for the Board of Supervisors, where there's a rotation for the chair of the board. But I like the idea of potentially of maybe after discussion and review and looking at other options. But today I would second Councilmember Dorenbecker's substitute motion.
Okay, so there is a substitute motion made by Councilmember Dorenbecker, seconded by Councilmember Knight. Is there discussion on that substitute motion? Just for the audience, we have to act on the substitute motion before we could act on the initial motion. I know it doesn't make sense to many of us, but that's the way the rules of order are. So we will consider the substitute motion first. If it fails, we go back to the original motion. So is there any further discussion on the substitute motion? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, thank you for your remarks this evening. I have learned a lot in my 2 years as Vice Mayor. We, as a council, during these 2 years and even before that, we agree on a lot of things. I think the most compelling learning experiences are when we disagree respectfully, but sometimes vigorously, and we do work together to come to a conclusion that is in the best interest of our town. I agree with you, Mayor. For the last couple of cycles, the vice mayor position has been contested, as it appears to be this evening. I do appreciate Council members Dorenbecker and Knight nominating me, and I do accept that nomination. I would be honored to continue my service. Should the vote go in that direction, please know that I will continue to do what I have been doing. There is not one person on this council with whom I do not want to work. I admire all of you. I have a lot to learn from all of you. I have collaborated with all of you. And I think we have just been through an election that did bring change, but I have every confidence that we will keep our eyes and hands on our fundamentals, that we will have our heart and our mind the best for our town. We will continue to work together to the best resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just share, I think I made my position clear in my comments, but I'll just reiterate some of them. I've been very satisfied with Vice Mayor Dorman's service as Vice Mayor. I just saw the appropriateness of making this a rotational appointment to remove the politics from it. Apparently that's not going to happen tonight. So that's the will of the council. It's about to be. I do still recommend that we review the process going forward. I think this, we are a community that is pretty close, and this has become a difficult, divisive process when it used to be almost ceremonial. And that's a personal frustration of mine. I find that it should be my appointment, and I know that the council has to accept it and actually approve it. I will respect that process. You know how I feel. So with that, I'll go ahead and ask for a roll call vote on the substitute motion. Michelle.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Dornbecker.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Knight.
Yes.
Sorry. Councilmember Mueller.
No.
Vice Mayor Dorman.
Yes.
Mayor Dunbar.
I will say yes.
Okay, thank you.
You know where my position was, but in the interest of trying to kind of unify the council, I know it doesn't entirely. I want to just recognize, first of all, congratulations, Vice Mayor Dorman. Again, I am perfectly happy with continuing your service and your support of me in my role as mayor and representing the council. That's not at all what this is about. I did see that it was an appropriate time and opportunity for Councilmember Mueller, who has served, I think, about 12 years and had been the only one to not serve a full term. So we'll deal with that another time in the future. I want to recognize Councilmember Mueller's service as being also exceptional and worthy of certainly another full 4-year term on the council. And we'll see. We also have board appointments and other responsibilities as council members that we will be reviewing in the coming weeks, and we'll see how that all plays out as well. So again, we will continue to move forward. Vice Mayor Dorman, you will be staying in that position, and that is it for that item. Now we will move on to the adoption of tonight's agenda. We're just now getting to that part. Michelle, do we have any changes to it? I don't think we do.
No, we don't, Mayor.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Councilmember Mueller, seconded by Councilmember Knight. Roll call vote again, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Mueller.
Yes.
Councilmember Knight.
Yes.
Councilmember Dornbecker.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dorman.
Yes.
Mayor Dunbar.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to public comment on items not on the agenda. I believe we have 3 that have been submitted by residents. Michelle, if you could please read those. And Samantha, are you able to do a 3-minute shot clock on that? Thank you.
Thank you. The first public comment is submitted by Billy Hewitt, and it reads, in the event that no one else has, I am alerting council of the Can-Do's Give Guide for the month of December. In the effort to support nonprofits throughout the Napa Valley, we have the opportunity to easily make a difference. Click on candogiveguide.org and various organizations will be shown, and you can just push the donate button to give your support. Locally, the Veterans Homes Associations is listed after going through a lengthy qualification assessment. Yesterday, this group distributed signage to various merchants in town, all of whom voiced support. Thanks for listening. Happy holidays. Stay safe and healthy. Billy Hewitt. The second public comment was submitted by Lloyd Penrod and Debbie Wellborn, and it reads, we would like to congratulate Eric Knight as the newest member of the Yountville Town Council. We are excited as he will bring a fresh viewpoint, experience, and balance to the town council. We appreciate his and everyone's sacrifice in serving. Sincerely yours, Lloyd Penrod and Debbie Wellborn. And the final public comment was submitted by Pam Reeves, and it reads, since we will not be able to raise a congratulatory glass in person at the council meeting, I wanted to share a hearty congratulations to newly elected council member Eric Knight. I speak for many friends and neighbors who supported Eric's candidacy and are excited to have him represent us on the council. We look forward to a renewed emphasis on transparency and communication and thoughtful consideration of resident input and concerns. We look forward to a better year in 2021, in part because of new leadership on so many levels. Submitted by Pam Reeves. That concludes public comments submitted, Mayor.
Thank you. We will move on to the next item, item 11, which is our consent calendar. We do have 2 items on there. Michelle, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for the public's information, NVTA submitted additional information related to the amendment. That information's been provided to council and reviewed by the town manager and town attorney, and there appears to be no major substantive changes, and I'm just making sure that you have that information as part of your decision tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will also acknowledge that if we're taking both of these items now, Councilmember Knight will be abstaining since he was not part of the council for the meeting on October 20. Are there any items that need to be pulled, or is there a motion to accept the consent calendar as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Mueller, second by Vice Mayor Dorman on both items 11A and 11B. Michelle, please roll call.
Thank you. Councilmember Mueller?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dorman?
Yes.
Councilmember Dornbecker?
Yes.
Councilmember Knight?
Yes to item A, and I'll abstain on item B. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. And Mayor Dunbar?
Yes. Thank you. Those pass. Presentations. We are now going to hear a presentation about the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, also known as the CAFR for fiscal year ending June 30, 2020 by Sheldon Chauvin. I believe saw him on here earlier. Here he comes back again. Our CPA, town auditor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I was just going to introduce him
Yes,
quickly.
please, Celia.
Yes, Sheldon Chauvin will be joining us. I see his little tile there. Should be coming on shortly. He is with Chauvin and Associates, the town auditors, to present the CAFR for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2020. I want to quickly take a second to thank Sheldon and his team again for helping the finance department to complete this report in such a timely manner so that we can present it to you tonight. So thank you again, Sheldon, and when you're ready, please take it away.
All right. Celia, are you ready for me to start the PowerPoint?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're jealous. Sheldon's at the beach, apparently.
Not quite. I was in July, though. I did take that picture.
Okay. Welcome.
I'm going to go ahead and wait for the PowerPoint to come up, and then we'll just kind of use that to guide us through. And typically when I do a meeting in person, it's a lot more. How can I say? I guess it's really more of a fluid kind of presentation, and I can kind of interact a little bit more with people. Hopefully we can accomplish that even through Zoom tonight.
Can you see my
screen? We'll give it a shot. I do. I can see it.
Great. I'm operating a few screens here, so I'm just hoping I don't send us out of it.
Now, do I have control to move the PowerPoint at all?
No, I'm in control. Are you ready?
That's fine. That works for me. Yep, go ahead.
Okay.
I think I set this up to have the little float-ins. Yeah. So go ahead and hit spacebar next.
I guess it's not going to work.
Okay. Hit the play button.
I did.
Then you should be able to either have an arrow key or use the spacebar to go next. And that'll start doing the animations.
It is on my screen, but it's not going on screen too. So is there
right.
an alternate solution for this, Sam or Eddie?
Why don't you go ahead and get out and then I'll try again.
Thank you.
Yep, I'm ready to.
Yeah, worst case is you could scroll instead of using the animations. So just don't use the player. And all the animations are is just little, everything kind of falls in like a curtain.
Okay.
All right, there we go. All right, so this is just the cover screen, so you can see we're looking back. So everyone keep in mind what we're doing tonight is we're looking back to June 30, 2020. Audits are really kind of a history lesson, but the good thing about them is you can say at a certain point in time whether or not things were done the way they should have been, in the sense of the presentation of the financial statements. Were they presented fairly in the audit report, in the financial statement presentation? Were they presented fairly within all material respects? That's the main objective of the audit. And included in that is disclosures, of course, right? So the financial statements and the disclosures, we're looking for material misstatements and making sure there were not any, whether it be from compliance or non-compliance issues, or whether it be from errors. The audit isn't necessarily designed to discover fraud, keep that in mind, but if we do find fraud, or if we find fraud risk, we do address them during the audit. And, you know, an audit is not designed to give you 100% assurance. You know, for example, when we're looking at warrants and disbursements, we're not looking at 100% of those. We're identifying the risk areas in those sections, and then we're sampling, right? So we might sample to a 90% level of confidence. So a lot of times, though, we end up looking at about 95% of all the different warrants and expenditures through analysis, analytics, and general ledger detailed review. Go ahead to the next page, please. Next slide. One more time. So the one thing that you get to look at through an audit every year, once a year, is the government-wide presentation for the town. And that's something you don't get to see throughout the year, because what you're looking at are your fund financial statements and your budgets. But the presentation in those fund financial statements and your budgets is completely different than what you're going to see in the comprehensive annual financial report. And the statement of net position is one of those financial statements. Now, keep in mind what we're doing is every year in this audit, governmental accounting standards require that we convert your fund financials into this long-term presentation. So we're converting and consolidating. So we take your governmental fund financial statements and we consolidate those and convert them into a long-term presentation. And you end up with what we call governmental activities in the statement of net position, right? This is your balance sheet. So you end up with two sets of balance sheets and two sets of income statements. The government-wide balance sheet is your statement of net position. We do the same thing for the business type activities, otherwise known as your proprietary funds, your enterprise funds. We roll those into the long-term government-wide presentation. However, it doesn't change. It's really the same presentation that you'll see in your funds. So keep that in mind. Governmental funds, different presentation in the statement of net position than in your balance sheet. Business type funds, business type activities, same as your proprietary funds, actually just your enterprise funds, right? So I'm not going to get too detailed because I'll drive you guys crazy with that. And as an accountant, I start to get a little geeked out and crazy over this stuff, which I don't know why. It's just fun for me. So the statement of net position gives you an idea of what your government-wide balance sheet long-term presentation was as of June 30, 2020, compared to 2019. Now, this statement is a table. It's table 1 in the CAFR. In the section called the Management's Discussion and Analysis, you can actually find this exact same table. So the important thing that I took from this table when looking at it is that you didn't have significant fluctuations from 20 to 19, right? So we're looking at June 30, 20 again, can't say it enough, versus June 30, 2019. It's very important to note that from an audit standpoint, from a financial health standpoint, that you ended up with a total net position for 2020 of 56.08 million versus 2019 of 55.42 million. So in that sense, not a huge swing at all. And for the town of Yountville, that's actually very financially healthy. I have quite a few cities of all different sizes where they're sitting in a deficit net position, right? Not a positive, but a negative net position. And that's typically because of the net pension liabilities, the net OPEB liabilities, and sometimes other debt. They might have capital appreciation bonds. And then your capital assets, your infrastructure gets old and it depreciates, and therefore you end up in a deficit net position. So right off the bat, we're looking really good. Next slide, please. I decided to give you a look at the expenses by function. This is a part of the statement of activities. The statement of activities is another government-wide presentation. It's really just your income statement. It's a consolidated funds converted to a long-term approach. You get your income statement, right? And in that income statement, you find the expenses by function. With this year, with COVID-19, I felt it was important to take a look at what your expenses by program or function looked like, right? So what was the 2020 versus 2019? Now keep in mind, you're not really going to get to see this presentation in your budget necessarily, right? You'll get to see each department, you get to see the expenses, but it's not in a government-wide presentation. It's a totally different basis of accounting. So the changes weren't that significant overall. You can see that you had I think that's about $160,000, 0.16 million, right? And then 120, I think it was actually $125,000 on your business type activities. So a decrease of $125,000 on the business type activities. Now keep in mind, again, in the management discussion analysis, there's actually detail about what caused these changes. So table 2 in the management discussion analysis will explain to you what caused these differences. And typically you're going to see that the changes, for example, in general government, a lot of this will have to do with pensions and OPEB, depreciation, things of that nature. Sometimes things that you don't see in your fund statements may surprise you when you see them in your government-wide, but that's because the government-wide is adjusted for those assumptions and those estimates that you don't get to see throughout the year. Next slide, please. So here's a slide that shows us something you're more familiar with. It's your summary of changes in fund balance. You get to see this throughout the year, so there shouldn't be any surprises here. This is old news at this point in time. I know the town is dealing with TOT issues. That transient occupancy tax is a big revenue stream for the town, and so you're looking at using some of those revenue stabilization funds going forward, and that's going to be a big topic of discussion. But as of June 30, 2020, the fund balance for the town looked really financially strong. So you can see the total net change in fund balance was 0.93 million, so almost $1 million increase in total fund balance for the governmental funds. And so from an audit standpoint, we're very happy to see solid, consistent, healthy numbers like this. Next slide, please. Governmental activities, long-term debt. Kind of an important schedule to know where your debt is. And it's actually long-term liabilities, not just debt, right? And so in this sense, the one thing to take away from the June 30, 2020 audit in the town's debt, well, there's more than one, but the first thing is the refunding, right? So you had a new issuance there, the 2020 financing lease, which is a direct borrowing, and that was used to refund and basically pay off the 2013 lease revenue bonds, and that ultimately ended up in a $50,000 economic gain for the town. So you're saving some money by refunding that debt, and maximizing on the interest rates, those low interest rates that we're all getting nowadays. And then looking a little bit lower on this table, you see the net pension liability and the net OPEB liability, right? And so that's a big topic for all local governments. You're sitting at 3.1 million for your net pension liability at June 30, 2020 versus 2.9 at June 30, 2019. And your net OPEB liability, 483,000. Now, this is just the governmental activity side. So the total for these numbers combined would include the business type activities. So you're going to see that in the next schedule. Next slide, please. So now we have the business type activities. Now keep in mind what we're looking at here is when you have water, wastewater, you account for the activities of that throughout the year in your funds. And those funds for the water, wastewater enterprise funds, they do include the long-term debt, but your governmental funds do not include your long-term debt. However, when you have employees and employee benefits that work in various different departments that cross multiple different fund types and activities and programs, you have to account for those different pieces, those different benefits. And so in your business type activities, not only in the government-wide presentation, but in the fund statements, you will see that net pension liability again. And that's the portion that's allocated to the business type activities, right? Of just over $1 million. And then the net OPEB liability allocation was $156,000. So again, wanted to show you a summary of the long-term liabilities for the town, not just for governmental type, but also for the business type activities. Next slide, please. I think the next slide's the most fun slide that we have. So you get to see the audit results. So please go ahead and no exceptions in the audit opinions. Next, please. No material weaknesses. So we call this the 5 no's. Let's see if you can get there. No disagreements with management. No significant passed on adjustments. I think we only give you 4 no's, but we still give you our stamp of approval. So there you go. So the bottom line with the audit, I gave you some financial numbers in this to give you a little bit of comparative look at June 30, 19 versus 20. I also wanted to give you that government-wide presentation, the numbers, because you only get to see those once a year, and touch on the net pension liability, the debt, the OPEB liability. But the most important thing about the audit, besides saying, hey, were there any exceptions in the audit opinions? It's also, were there any disagreements with management? Were there material weaknesses? And were there any significant pass-on adjustments? And to be able to say no to all of those is exceptional. So you get that stamp of approval with an exclamation point. So that's I'm really happy that the town did hire me to perform this audit, because it was really easy to work with Celia and her team, especially through the COVID-19 environment. We didn't get to see each other, which was, different, to say the least. So it was a struggle from that standpoint, from an audit, when you have to really get to know a whole team of finance people in different departments when you can't see them and meet them. So some of our clients that we've had for years, not a problem, but when you're doing an audit for the first time, that's tough for the client and that's tough for the auditor. But we pushed through and we got this done. And you guys are early. All these, most of my clients are extending out into 2021 on their reports. So technically, you are early getting this done. So congratulations. Any questions or comments? Anything else you want me to touch on?
Celia, is there anything that you wanted to add? And then I'll ask council for questions.
I don't think so. I think Sheldon did a great job covering it. It is all pretty good news, I think. It's a very good CAFR, and I'm glad that he did point out that, yes, we are early. A lot of agencies aren't able to get to this till January, and we've been able to consistently produce it by December, and I'm very proud of that. And again, thank you to Sheldon and your team.
My pleasure.
Thank you. I see Vice Mayor Dorman, your hand is raised.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. So of the 172 pages of the audit, some of them were numbers and some of them were financial notes to the numbers. There was management's letter, but there was a lot of narrative. How does that fit into the CAFR? Is it required? If there is something in the narrative that, is it just to put context around the numbers, or is it something that someone might look at and rely on? Just what is the purpose of all of that, please?
Yeah, that's a great question, because you're at a level that you're at the highest level of reporting for a local government, because your goal here is to receive the award, a certificate from the Government Finance Officers Association. And so there are additional requirements above and beyond what governmental accounting standards require in a financial statement of this nature. And so what you're looking at, for example, is there's components such as the statistical section in the very back, which has all those tables and all those numbers. That is typically not required for a local government. That's only required when you want to issue a CAFR and receive the award from the GFOA, right? In addition to that, the transmittal letter, which is all management, they issue that transmittal letter, which is a 4 or 5 page document in the front of the CAFR. That is also an additional document that is not required normally for a local government. Now, when you get into the management's discussion and analysis, that is required. But the funny thing about that is it's technically listed as unaudited. We actually state in our opinion that we do not audit that. However, all the numbers in there are audited. So go figure. Right? Yeah. The funny thing about it is that's probably the best source for a council member to go and review the financial statements from. It's got the summarized data. It's got the tables, which summarizes all the the government-wide statements. And then it provides you with analysis as to why those changes happen. And you know, from a council member perspective, especially if you're not used to local government, if you're more familiar with what you might see in the commercial industry, the MD&A does provide you with more of a commercial perspective. So you might find it more familiar, and it gives you the answers you're looking for. Now, if you dig deeper into the financial statements and you start getting into the basic financial statements, well, you might get a little confused by two sets of financial statements because that's what you see, right? So it really, who can make sense of that if you're not a CPA? Not many people, right? And then it gets worse. Then you add the note disclosures. Now, some people might say better, but from a CPA's perspective, I think it's better. But if I'm a person that is not familiar with these financial statements, I'm going to be lost by the time I get to the notes. However, the note disclosures do have quite a bit of detail related to cash and investments. The net pension liability, the net OPEB liability disclosures are above and beyond if you understand those. And then the long-term debts, it's very summarized and easy to read, so you can get an idea of what's going on there. The capital assets are very straightforward. So there's quite a bit going on there. And then the significant accounting policy. So if you really want to get detailed, you can get into the significant accounting policy. So there's a lot going on. So that's a great question. So hopefully I was able to answer that well enough for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilmember Knight, your hand is raised.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Mr. Chauvin for the report, and I just look forward for, I guess, to a lot of winter readings or Christmas reading, and then after the first of the year, getting together with Celia and with Steve to review it. So thank you for the report.
Thank you. And I know we have another item that Celia is going to be presenting in a minute. I just want to say just a very general statement, which is I still find it quite amazing, not surprising, but amazing how Celia has led the our financials all year, given all that has been happening. Crazy timing with, you know, TOT collection and just all the pandemic related economic challenges and therefore financial challenges. And then to be able to look back, we needed to have this kind of setup to get us through 2020. And if that hadn't happened, we'd probably be in a much worse off position. So I'm glad that we were able to memorialize that. Mr. Chauvin and also Celia just continued great work on that. Michelle, do we have any, I don't see a list of any public comment. Did we receive any? Okay, I lip read. No, we did not.
Michelle, you're
okay,
muted.
That's all right. I got it. So with that, I believe we do need to make a motion to just formally receive the financial report. No, we will just formally receive the financial report. Mr. Chauvin, again, thank you very much for the comprehensive look. And it's like I just said, it's critical that we are able to have this kind of a thorough review given the circumstances that we continue to be in. It's also great that we were able to get this done ahead of many. We like to do it that way, that we are efficient and also very comprehensive. So great work. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to Celia and the team. Appreciate all the effort and the help throughout the audit, and I look forward to next year.
Thank you, Sheldon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we do not have any public hearings tonight. We're going to continue. Celia is going to lead us into the first of the administrative items, 14A. Consider adoption of resolution number 20-4024, approving the year-end financial report for fiscal year 2019-2020 and budget adjustments assigning the available unassigned fund balance in the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget. And so Celia, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your kind words. To follow that lovely CAFR presentation, we have the year-end financial report. I think there is a PowerPoint, Michelle, when you're ready. I'll just point out quickly that this report reflects all applicable year-end journal entries being posted to the general ledger and is supported by the CAFR. All right, so So we have an opportunity to review some numbers here and reallocate some unassigned fund balance in the general fund, which is very positive. Next slide, please, Michelle. So the general fund actually ended the fiscal year in a better position than was initially anticipated prior to June. I think if you keep going, there's some little carrots that will appear. There you go. So discretionary transfers were suspended as of April, and these items included further contributions to the OPEB and PRSP trusts, and transfers into the repair replacement funds 81 and 82. And just to add, both of those repair replacement funds are nearing a sufficient and sustainable balance. So a temporary suspension of general fund transfers will not be detrimental. Property and sales tax collections being higher than expected slightly offset the loss in TOT. And savings generated by departments in the amount of 1.15 million helped the general fund retain a positive fund balance, being that at the end of the fiscal year, revenues were more than expenditures. So the major highlight here is twofold. The general fund ended with $783,609 in unassigned fund balance. And this was achieved without having to utilize any of the revenue stabilization reserve funds. Next slide, please, Michelle. So this shows how the fund balance in the general fund at June 30th is distributed into the fiscal year 2020-21 to cover allocations approved by the council in the adopted budget. Worth noting on this list is that in the current year, we do have over $459,000 assigned for budget contingencies, which is a primary place to find funding to cure revenue shortfalls or unanticipated expenditures, as well as the $2.8 million assigned for the potential purchase of the Yountville Elementary School site. And even with those, we still have quite a healthy amount in unassigned fund balance. Next slide, please. So though we did suspend contributions to the OPEB and PRSP trusts as of April 2020, and for the remainder of fiscal year 2020-2021, the two trusts still have healthy balances as of October 30th, as you can see listed here. And also, neither of the emergency reserve or revenue stabilization reserve fund have been utilized as of yet, and both have balances of over $2 million. Next slide, please, Michelle. So staff suggestions for allocating the $783,000 in unassigned fund balance are shown here, with $30,000 being utilized to fund the leaf blower rebate program, and the balance simply remaining in unassigned fund balance for possible use later in fiscal year 2020-21. Another option is to discuss other allocation alternatives that the council may have. And this is the end of the slides show. So at this point, I'd like to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Could you tell us how 2021 is going to go financially? I'm just kidding.
I would love to have a magic 8 ball, but I think we'll have to wait a little longer to see.
I knew that would be your response, but thought I'd at least try. Vice Mayor Dorman.
Thank you. Thank you, Celia, for the report. So far, so good. So on the $1.15 million that we are, quote, under budget on expenditures, and under budget being my word, I was trying to figure out with you before the meeting where that came from, and it looks to me that about $430,000 of it came from our deferring deposits to the two trusts and to funds 81 and 82. And it looks about like $490,000 of that came from some big dollar differences in the clerk's office, the planning office, and public works, admin, and engineering. And my understanding is on these three ladders, the clerk, planning, and public works, those, they weren't spent, but they are still ongoing projects that will be spent in this current fiscal year?
If I could, Vice Mayor, that is a potential. And again, we're looking at the expenditures. Those were rollovers, and to be perfectly honest, some of those proposed projects, like the additional scanning and various things, there's some of the expenses that are COVID related. So that's not, I wouldn't assume that all of that will be expended, but that is,
Okay.
and that is something that internally, but that is where they came from. We also, on the planning side, that's where the Zoto update and everything. So what you're seeing is, one, a carryover of the unencumbered purchase order from the prior year, and we'll try and utilize those first. And that may result in actual not utilizing as much of their budget in the current fiscal year, if that makes sense. So that it's just a prioritization and a reality. This is one of those areas where I'm going to be very honest. We have very lofty ambitions of getting a lot more of our records scanned and into the system, but that takes human touch, contact, and interaction, and COVID-19 is really, so the downside though is we're not getting that work done. So I mean, there's not, and similarly, as you may recall, we're not as far along on the Zoto update as we had originally anticipated. So that's where some of that expense, and again, I think we're going to end up with some savings. And then in the future years, we may have to pick up a few things that didn't occur. And similarly, all of the departments have been looking at where are there some potential projects or things that we can minimize costs. Not all departments have the same latitude with consultant costs and structures, just because of the nature of what they do. But the three that you mentioned, that's where the savings are coming from.
Okay, thank you. And then I have the similar question on the flip side of our revenues, 755,000 lower than we budgeted. So I guess I'm looking at, perhaps it was actually lower, it was more of a loss than 754, because it did include some sort of some property tax that we don't always get. I think you said it was about $368,000 worth. So I'm just, and I think we're doing a fine job. I really do. I'm just trying to get clear in my mind what's kind of real money versus what we may have to spend again. So am I correct about that some of that, the 754 has been offset by the increase in the property taxes?
With property tax, I think you're going to see the base increase slightly, but as you know, and the council knows, and the public, we don't include in our budget projections what is known as ERAF, excess revenue augmentation funds. So that's a variable.
And I'm putting that aside.
So we did have.
I'm putting that aside.
Yeah. So you're going to see a slight base increase. I do think we had some positive news. So that number, and our sales tax was a little bit surprising, but what you're seeing there is the result of the Wayfarer decision and the sales tax on online coming back and being allocated. So the good news there is we will see that baseline will also continue, obviously going to be significantly offset by our restaurant losses. But the good news on both of those is, if you're looking for a positive, having the Wayfarer decision come in and creates a slightly new revenue stream came in at a very opportune time.
Excellent, thank you.
Celia, did you have anything further you wanted to add to that?
Just to add that, Vice Mayor, you are correct. The TOT, the loss in TOT was 1.3 million. So that 754,000, that is the net of that TOT loss, slightly offset by some revenues that came in a little higher.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Dornbecker.
Thank you. And thank you, Celia, for your outstanding work as our finance director. I'm really impressed with how you have grown into that position so beautifully. I did have a question about the remainder of the unfunded balance. I'm concerned about the cost of water, and I have a feeling that many of the residents are going to be financially strapped as well as the businesses this year. And is there any plan that we could use some of that unfunded balance to subsidize water just for this year, since it's such an uncomfortable year for everyone and there's so much financial loss? I would hate to try and make up for the water costs on the backs of our residents when they're having financial struggles as well.
Thank
Two
you,
answers.
Council Member. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. Councilmember Dornbecker, you're bringing up some important policy considerations that the full council will ultimately have to do. And I will also remind everybody that the enterprise funds of which the water is from are distinct, if you just remember, from the CAFR. So fundamentally, you would have to alter the approved policy guidelines and structure which prohibit a general fund subsidy of the utility enterprise funds. And I'm also going to point out that the staff recommendation for this unassigned fund balance is basically, we're letting you know that this is what would, the good news is this could offset. We aren't making our current projections on TOT. So that is a concern. So I don't know that the general fund is out of the woods yet in terms of having capacity to subsidize water or utility rates. And then and we can talk more about this, we will be having, but if you subsidize something on one given year, it's going to result in a potential increase that's higher the next. So, I mean, we will continue that discussion and look at it, but that's just the short answer there. Is it's certainly challenging, but I don't think the general fund is in a position yet that at least I'm willing to recommend that it has money that can be available to subsidize non-general. We may need it to make up for revenue shortfalls in this current year, just as we're tracking, and that's something we're reporting to you. But right now we're a little off on the TOT that we had projected. So that's just where I'm saying that would be the good news, is that we do have some capacity, and I think we may need to look at that.
Well, I know, and I'm concerned because we're also looking at one problem after another, and the lack of rain is getting pretty critical as we look forward. And there's not rain or snow for much of December that's being forecast. So anyway, it's just something
I
that
would also
I would like us to think about.
We're not going to go into policy discussion right now.
No.
Okay. Celia.
Yes, just wanted to remind you that the town does offer the low income subsidy for water wastewater, a $25 credit on the utility bill, and that is funded by the general fund to transfer into the water and wastewater funds. And last year we transferred $1,288 into both the water and wastewater funds to cover that, because I think we had 8 or 9 participants in that program.
Thank you, Celia.
And you would also have the ability from a policy standpoint to revisit your drought reserve fund balance, which is an asset of the water fund.
I'm just going to remind everyone that unassigned fund balance is not extra money to put toward one-time expenses or repeated expenses. Residents use the water system, and they should be paying for use of the water system. I know for a decade, the town paid down people's water bills, and there are some people that want it again, but I think it's very short-sighted to be talking about that when we have an undetermined length of time in the future where we are going to be losing TOT and we are going to be losing sales tax. And I think it would be very dangerous to assume that we can use this unassigned fund balance to pay down water or anything else when we have.
I'm not assuming, I'm just asking the question.
I'm making my statement now. I'm just saying that it would be very short-sighted for us to assume that this money is that liquid for us, because we don't know how long the financial hardship is going to go. It took us 10 years to build up reserve funds that we have relied on so that we didn't have to tap into the general funds. And so I think we just need to be very cautious about thinking that we're in a really strong we're in a much better financial situation than most, but we are not immune from the impacts of the pandemic. We don't know how long it's going to last. So are there any other hands from council? I don't see any. I do have a note that there was a typo correction, Celia, in the fiscal year that was listed originally.
Correct. The resolution in line A said fiscal year 18-19, and it was corrected to say 19-20.
Great, thank you. I would call that not substantive.
Correct.
But good to fix. Okay, I don't see any additional hands. So is there? Let's see. We need a motion to accept or adopt the year-end report.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Dorman, second. I believe that was Councilmember Knight. Roll call, please, Michelle.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Dorman.
Yes.
Councilmember Knight.
Yes.
Councilmember Moeller.
Yes.
Councilmember Dornbecker.
Yes.
Mayor Dunbar.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next, discussion and possible direction regarding the gas-powered leaf blower ordinance. Let's see. Public education and rebate program.
Yep.
Okay, Steve.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I want to put a little context to what this item is and isn't. As you all know, when you adopted the recent gas leaf blower ban that's effective July 1, 2021, you had asked us as staff to work on several things, one of which would be an education and outreach program, and then secondly, a rebate program. So what I want to let you know is what we're looking tonight is to get some feedback and direction from you on what you would like potentially in how your rebate program is constructed. So that's going to be a focus of the questions. What we're aiming to do is have 2 rounds of communications that will go to our property owners and then business owners, letting them know about the ordinance and then also letting them know about the rebate program. Structurally, staff is recommending, and I'm just going to say this is an initial recommendation and we're looking for council feedback and thoughts, of $30,000, which you saw we used out of the unassigned fund balance to allocate for the program. We're recommending an initial distribution, $20,000 for commercial, $10,000 for residential. And I'm going to turn the conversation over to Public Works Management Analyst Erica Teagarden to kind of lead you through some of the questions. But what we're really looking for, and there may be more dialogue and conversation amongst you, because there isn't a right and a wrong way to create the rebate program. What we're trying to do is make sure that we honor some of the questions that the council had posed. I do want to stress that with a lean staff and in a COVID environment, I would put simplicity over complexity in terms of how we structure it. I also want to point out that the FAQs and the draft application are just that. They were samples to show you where we're going. They both will need a level of refinement, especially the application in there. And in looking at some of the comments, there are some comments that make sense. But with that, Erica, lead them through the questions, and we look forward to your input and thoughts and bringing back the program.
Okay. Our first question regarding the 30,000, like Steve had said, we are proposing that 10,000 be earmarked for residential rebate and 20,000 for commercial landscapers. I'm not sure, are you wanting them to discuss each question, or as
I'd like you to throw out all of the proposals. I think we will also, after you just throw them out, we'll get the 2 public comments have been submitted, and then we can consider all of those options, see if any of them work well together.
Okay, great. The second question is, as far as the program goes, if the council would like the program to have an end date, a time limit for them to apply, or would you like it to just go until the funds are expended? Another one was, it was mentioned in the original ordinance that you would like to require a vacuum blower combo. So that was a question, if you would like to require that of residential applicants for the rebate, or if you would like to just have it, just not require it to have the vacuum. I know that that was part of the initial consideration, and the group, the neighborhood group that brought it forward had mentioned wanting the vacuum to be part of that. And then the fourth question has to do with the rebate amount. Whether you want, $100 rebate to help with the cost of the leaf blower for residential. And so I've kind of broken it down, if we give $100 rebate for residential, that would give us 100 rebates to offer. As far as commercial, I think it was mentioned a tiered rebate. If the commercial landscapers had a certain number of accounts, they would get, a $500 rebate. So it just depends on if you want a tiered, depending on the number of accounts. And then the last question was just additional feedback consideration from you.
Thank you, Erica. If let's see, where did Michelle go? Oh, now you're at the bottom of my screen. Okay. Could you share the 2, and if there are any other public comments, so that we can consider any of those additional ideas that were presented by, I have Denise Hughes and Pam Reeves listed.
Yes, that's right. And I will read both of those, and I don't see any more submittals. The first public comment is submitted by Denise Hughes, and it says, I'm pleased to see that the council is considering a reimbursement program for businesses impacted by the new leaf blower ban. However, I wonder about the implementation of that program. It appears that the funds would be shared between businesses and homeowners. I walk around town almost daily, and I have never seen a homeowner using a gas-powered blower. The intent of the ordinance is to replace a polluting machine with one that is more environmentally friendly. I wonder what will prevent a homeowner who doesn't own a gas-powered blower from purchasing a new electric blower simply because they can get a grant from the town to offset the cost. I also wonder if there will be limits put on the number of rebates given to a business. A small landscaping business may only need 1 rebate to replace a single machine. A larger business may need multiple rebates to cover the purchase of several machines. It's important that businesses have a clear understanding of the rebate distribution. Our second public comment is submitted by Pam Reeves, and it says, Council members, I have some comments about the staff report, FAQ page, and sample application for the gas leaf blower ordinance. The leaf blower ordinance public outreach. Number 1, in Sonoma, at all landscaping materials and building material businesses, there was a laminated informational flyer about the leaf blower ordinance on checkout counters. It is a service that the businesses offer to educate their patrons. This might be useful for Napa and St. Helena building/landscaping businesses, since their patrons work in Yountville as well as those communities. 2, perhaps a notice on all town bulletin boards would also alert the residents of this change in our requirements. 3, all building permits and landscaping plan approvals should also contain an informational flyer on the new ordinance/rebate program. Next, leaf blower rebates. Number one, I think we should organize the rebates so that it encourages what we want to end up with, vacuums over blowers. It is both an ecological and health benefit for the town to encourage vacuums over blowers, so the rebate schedule should reflect this. There should be an incentive built into the rebates to encourage vacuums. We won't have this golden opportunity to change behavior again. 2, more money should be available for residents as well as commercial landscapers to purchase vacuums rather than standard blowers. The differential should be large enough to make it a good deal to take the vacuum. Next is sample FAQs on leaf blowers. Number 1, if the town thinks that the rebates should be scaled to favor vacuums, then the FAQs should be altered to educate about the superior protection that vacuums have over blowers and how they protect citizens and operators from contaminants and harmful dust. Next is draft application for rebate comments. Number 1, this application is confusing in the first section. The application should just ask for name, address, and other contact information from the applicant. Then there can be a separate box to check if this is a business application, followed by the appropriate business information questions. Then there would not be all the asterisks and confusion about how to fill out even the first line of the application. Number 2, how sure are we that there is sufficient funding for the potential applicants? If I were interested in the rebate, I would like to know that it was available before I purchased the items. Perhaps we could create a 2-step application. Step 1 is the completed application, which would generate approval and a guarantee of funds. Then, after the purchase is made, the funding would be released with the receipt for the purchase. In parentheses, the funds would be earmarked for that particular applicant. Number 3, the rebate submittal requirement section should be last if it is agreed that there would be a 2-step submittal. Number 4.
That's time. That's 3 minutes, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you. So no new reports or public comments, Michelle?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And those are submitted. The council has, all the council has received them in their entirety, and we had them prior to the meeting. So even though it went beyond the 3 minutes, we have the full statement available to us, and it's available in the record. Okay, thank you. So let's go back to Erica. If you wanted to either evaluate any of those ideas, how they might work with the ones that you've been recommending, or do you want to have questions from the council at this point?
I think we can go with questions from the council. I know that part of the comment with the 2-step application, I believe in Pam Reeves' comment, I think just to follow up with what Steve had said earlier, the easier the application, I think it would be hard to earmark funds and then waiting for the applicant to follow through, because we might earmark funds and then the applicant may not follow through, and then those funds would be missed out for a different applicant. So that was the only concern with that. But if we wanted to go with council or Steve.
Mayor, council, a few other things that I would share. I think there are some good feedback from some of the comments, but I would also like you to know, we also thought about the requirement of a homeowner having to turn in the piece of equipment. So if that is something the council is interested in, that is certainly the other footnote that, and I think the council members may require, some of our thoughts were that the small landscaper that only does a couple may not want to invest in the equipment, but could use the homeowners, and that's why we have a homeowner option. So I just want to point out that that was, and we're trying to balance the two. So one of the key elements, in addition to, I think, is the vacuum question. And then also on the commercial, the tiering, and we hear what we're kind of recommending is some input from you, a higher amount for a customer or a landscaper that has, more than 3 or 4 accounts, recognizing that they may buy. So, but I will, I do want to stress, this is the very first draft, and we probably will end up with a simpler version. We do have experience with rebate programs. We have Cash for Grass, our toilet. So in this new COVID environment, we're going to be working around and trying to simplify. But obviously, the challenge with a two-step process is it just requires a lot of touch multiple times by town staff. We would prefer a one-step. And I think 30,000 that we're recommending is a good start. And then, you know, we can come back to the council. I know the council was not comfortable on really what number was the right number. And we don't really know. I mean, we have less than 20 licensed commercial landscapers in Yountville, and we know there are many more folks doing work. So we are going to be reaching out. And then again, our focus was to get going so that we would have something ready to launch in late March, early April, well before the July 1 effective date.
One other thing I just want to add for consideration is battery backup power. We may need to have some language in here that we don't, the individual, whether it's a homeowner or a business, doesn't need to buy an entire new piece of equipment necessarily. They may buy one and buy a couple extra batteries, something like that we just need proof of purchase of what they are supposed to be using as permitted businesses or as residents, that you know, we do need to potentially support as much as we can. I think that probably goes more for a commercial operator.
It does.
Since they are doing multiple, potentially
Right.
multiple clients. The homeowner, much less important that they have battery backups.
Or the electrical. So, I mean,
they can kind of use the money as, if we set $100 or $150, whatever it is, the homeowner can decide, is that 3 batteries? Is that 1 leaf blower? Is it a vacuum blower combo? That type of thing. So we're not necessarily saying you have to put it toward a piece of the actual
correct.
equipment.
And what I would stress is we were anticipating, that's also why there's a higher dollar amount for the commercial, is the anticipation that they would be buying the multiple batteries or extension cords and or multiple blowers dependingly. But we can clarify that again as we build our document.
And I also think that we're going to need, by the time we get the finality of this, is to get current cost estimates for the equipment. So how much is the straight electric? How much is a battery blower? How much is a blower vacuum combo? How much are the batteries by themselves? So we really are itemizing what the cost might be either to the resident or to the business owner. We are talking about that many combinations of potential subsidy. I realize we're just saying a dollar amount put toward this program, but let's make sure that if we're saying $100, that that's actually still competitive to buy a piece of equipment. So other questions from council? Councilmember Dornbecker.
Thank you. Yes, so in consideration of the question of whether or not we want to require a blower and a vacuum, I was thinking that perhaps it would make sense to offer a more substantial rebate for a vacuum, but not, and also offer a rebate for the blower, so that we're not, you know, saying to anyone, well, whatever you have is not it, you can't do it, but that we give them the option, but we give them a little incentive to say it's a better idea really to do the vacuum. That's my.
Thank you. I want to double check here. I don't remember us requiring vacuums. Am I misremembering that?
Mayor, Councilor,
No, we
you're correct. The council conversation was to use the rebate program to influence the vacuum outcome.
But I believe one of the public comments was that it was going to be required. Anyway, I want to make sure that it's clear. We could incentivize. It is an option that we would like to see people do, but it's not a requirement of the ordinance.
And one of the public comments when it was going forward was encouraging the council to only offer a residential rebate for a vacuum. So I'm just saying, this is why we're asking you all where you really kind of want to go on some of these things.
Right, thank you. Councilmember Knight.
Thank you. It's a good, I appreciate it. It's a good first discussion. I know we're working through this issue, and that's why I appreciate very much comments from residents, from former council member Reeves and Denise Hughes. I think they made some great suggestions, and so I just have a few comments just to add to theirs. I don't think in terms of question number 2 that we should necessarily have a sunset provision for this. And in terms of, I think the question, one of those issues is that since the enforcement of the ordinance won't begin to July 1, I would hope we might consider, in case a resident and a resident only had anticipated this process and maybe purchased a battery powered, electric powered leaf blower, that maybe we consider a retroactive start to this rebate starting in the past year, like July 1. I do support the concept. I think it's important that somehow we tier or how we fund rebates, that we encourage vacuum versus just the leaf blower only. I think it really is more meets the climate action goals of the general plan, the effort to promote more ecological and products that improve our air quality. And so I would like to do that. The challenge I had is, from my experience looking at Home Depot, is that most battery powered and vacuum units were electric only, that most of the battery powered units were blowers. There was one vacuum gas powered one, but I think we'll have to do more research to find a way to see what really options are out there. All I could see, as I said, to have a combination blower and vacuum was an electric option, which probably may not be very, it's not probably a good option for the commercial vendors. I think the other thing I want to just promote and encourage a conversation on is that in order to also meet our action goals, that this rebate really should encourage retirement of a gas powered unit. It's much like what we did for Cash for Grass, or as the California DMV does for retirement of clunkers. You're paid for the retirement of a vehicle that's no longer compliant. So I think it's very important that somehow we consider retirement of a unit as a part of the rebate program. So thank you.
A clarifying question, Councilmember Knight. Did you say that you were recommending retroactivity back to July of 2020?
No, I'm sorry. I'm just suggesting maybe retroactive back to July 1 of this year, 2020. Just as a starting point, it really gives it's a point of if our enforcement won't begin on this ordinance until July 1 of 2021, just giving a full year in case a resident and a resident only maybe purchased a electric or battery powered unit earlier this year in anticipation of the ordinance. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor Dorman.
Thank you for the report. And thank you for framing the questions for us. So I do have a question, a couple of questions before I have some thoughts on things. So my question is, what was the thinking in dividing the 30,000 between commercial and residential? Rather than just having
your town manager's best educated guess.
Well, rather than just having a single fund of money.
We know, yes, because we did, if you look in the staff report, we tried to calculate numbers. So we felt more money needed to go to commercial because we wanted to try to make sure that the commercial accounts would address that, because they do serve multiple. We have heard from homeowners, and we've also, like I mentioned, there were homeowners that indicated that they would be willing to obtain the device for their landscaper or their gardener to use. I think some of those were concerned that their their gardener may not be licensed and not going to go through the process of obtaining a business license. So again, it's just a categorization. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we can move money around. We tried to figure out enough to make it a meaningful program, but I don't have, you know, we could, you know, have incredible interest and be coming back to you in April saying we potentially need more money.
I would also just follow up.
Thank you.
Follow up with that by getting the commercial operators to transition, we're also extending the reach of the program beyond those that are operating in the town of Yountville. If a small business has been required to change over for Yountville, then they go work in Napa, St. Helena, somewhere else. They have that environmentally improved piece of equipment they're using there as well.
And I have no objection to the amount of the money. I was just curious as to the split. So thank you. And then on the FAQs, I did send in a few comments, and is my understanding correct, Mayor, that and perhaps Town Manager, that those we will not go through one by one tonight, but you will kind of put them together for us to see in the next draft. And the same question with the application particulars.
I think it makes sense that until we know exactly what the kind of program is, we don't know what the FAQs are going to be.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So with that said, Mayor, do you want discussion now or just questions?
We can, well, I wanted to get questions first. There's already been discussion, but I do want to, before you get further into your discussion, I want to hear if Councilmember Mueller has any questions. And you're still muted, Councilmember Mueller.
I know that we had a discussion about businesses on record being able to, you have to have a business license in town to at least qualify for this. Is this part of the discussion tonight? And also, have we set any particular time frame that if we do all agree, or at least a majority, that do you want us to comment on when business license must be obtained, or is it something that should have already been obtained? Where was the staff discussion on that?
From the very beginning, my recollection is the council, I believe it was unanimous, including the staff recommendation, that a Yountville business license would be required for any of this.
That's correct. I'll just clarify for everybody. That's
but it's
a very clear starting point. So
hear about the program and then go out and get one. So have we set anything specific about that, or is that an open question for this evening?
It's our assumption that a town of Yountville business license would be required to get a town rebate. So
no, that's not my question. So here's my question. If, let's say we walk through some of this rebate.
Councilmember Mueller, you just froze. There you are. You're back.
Okay. Oh, now my internet connection.
If we walk through this rebate.
Okay, so what I want to know, can we talk about that tonight? Personally, we're going to walk through, make some plans. Things are going to come back to us. It doesn't seem fair to me, to all the businesses who have had licenses in this town for commercial or residential landscaping, for maybe a Johnny come lately to say, hey, I'm going to go to Yountville, maybe for $40, $50 business license, I'm going to get this rebate. So can that be part of the discussion as well tonight? Would that fall under feedback?
Whatever you all want. We're trying to shape your program.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
So, okay. Not seeing any of those. So further discussion. So Vice Mayor Dorman, you were going to continue with discussion points. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to go through the questions presented by staff. Number one, I think we've just decided we're okay with the 30,000 based on our last motion. I would prefer it to be one pot of money or one bunch of funds. I do think our commercial are going to use it more, but I would just like to see it just be money. I'm optional on whether there's an end date or whether it's just when funds are expended. I think some amount of retroactivity is interesting because we have been talking about this for a while. It may be that someone purchased one. More discussion on that perhaps. I also agree with council members Dornbecker and Knight, and I believe Mayor, you may have said this too, that not to require a vacuum, but to figure out a way to incentivize it, both for our residents and our businesses, if there is a commercial piece that lends itself to that. The rebate amounts, I am, and again, I believe this was maybe you, Mayor, I would like to know how much things cost before we figure out how much we're going to rebate. The tiered by account is interesting, but I think it's more important how many accounts they have in Yountville, because if someone uses a large landscaping firm and they have 300 accounts, I'm only interested in the ones that they have in Yountville. I understand, Mayor, what you're saying about if they go around the valley, it's helpful too. And they could take those around the valley, but I would just do that. I had some comments on the FAQs. I think the only one I will raise here is at the end where it says homeowners and contractors may both be liable for violations of the proposed ordinance. I would prefer it to, because we had a lot of discussion about this when we were passing on the ordinance, I would prefer it to actually just track the ordinance language, which is, I think, has stood the test of 2 months and is still pretty clear. I would like to have only one rebate per household or business allowed, just one amount of money, one time. And this is something the staff has touched on, and I would look to them to bring something back. How does the proof of purchase work? How do we know what they're really doing? And I know that we've done some other rebate programs that will give us some guidance, but I think it's a very, very good start, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mueller.
The first item I wanted to talk about was the vacuums. I'm glad we had that cleared, that we might just be wanting to incentivize those, because I know we've heard quite a bit of discussion about it being more environmentally friendly, et cetera. But I have heard from several people, and I also feel that there is an environmental concern for the insects. You know, if you're just sucking up some stuff on a driveway or a sidewalk, it's mostly, you know, little particles of stuff. But actually, when you're going under bushes and around a lot of trees, there's a lot of ladybugs, and there's, you know, grasshoppers, and, you know, all sorts of bugs that can get sucked up. And there are a lot of people, including myself, that really like a stable eco center. And so I just think we need to, you know, make people aware of that. Just because you can suck something up doesn't mean you're just sucking up the bad stuff. There are good things that kind of, you know, might get trapped in those bags as well. So I just want to, you know, stand up for the bugs out there, because there are quite a few, and they are important. I do think that we need to probably break this up into commercial and residential accounts. I think that if one got ahead, you know, of the commercial people, we really don't know how many licenses there are. That's another question I had. Do we have any concept about how many commercial licenses that are given out to landscapers?
We have approximately 20.
20. Okay, so I'm just going to assume, for argument's sake, they're probably doing 2 or 3 yards each. So they could, depending on the number, really kind of go through that money pretty quickly. And I would just really hate to not have some money set aside for our residents. So I'm more than happy if our residents don't use it up to maybe throw it into the commercial bucket, but I think it really needs to be there, you know, for both people. So seems like your split seems pretty good to me right now. I also favor an end date. I think what an end date does is it encourages people to move forward with this and definitely use the funds. Just because we have an end date does not mean that we can't have a renewal. But I think it provides that encouragement that we're trying to really get everybody's attention. July 1's not that far away, and we're really going to take some time not only to bring this back to council, but to work through it. And then after we work through it, roll it out. July will not be that far away. So that's really what I would favor. I also like that tiered approach that we saw a few council meetings ago. If you have this many accounts, then you could possibly get this much of a rebate. I do favor that because there are some, I know my landscaper does about, at least 7 houses that I know of in town. He works on his own, he has his own crew, he doesn't own a big company. So I think that I do like that general concept. Also, I think that, let's see, what were the other questions that you were asking? So in terms of these rebates, I think what I'm would like to have some more discussion or have some more thought from the staff, because I do agree we need to, I've kind of done some looking around, and these things, they run the whole gamut of costing $200 to $1,000. So are we going to pay for a whole new gas blower for somebody? I don't really want to collect these old gas models. They can have them, they can use them in other communities. I don't want us to be having to recycle those because they're not easy, I can tell you that. So what I'm trying to say is I don't favor the rebate compensating 100% for the new item. A substantial percent makes sense to me, but I think that just because we're mandating that, they'll be able to use this equipment many other places too. So I don't really know what that number is. It's not 20%. It's definitely greater than 50%. So I think we are going to need to come up with some ballpark figure about what we will give for an electric leaf blower. So I think that's going to be pretty challenging. And also I do have another comment about under frequently asked questions about the fines to possibly homeowner and business, but I think we're going to work through that after we come up with
actually to make it real clear for everybody, the focus is on the operator will be the one that is responsible. So we will clean that up.
Okay. And then back to my my first and only question. I definitely think that whatever we put in place, again, I want to honor the commercial operators in town who have been operating under a business license, who have been doing the right thing, and not just allow anybody who wants to fill out the form saying, I'm mow and blow in town to be able to get something like that. So it might be a priority system, it might be an only system, but I would like to talk about that.
We can do a simple idea to address that would be that we send a letter out to those that are licensed and give them a priority time period to apply. And remember, anybody else is going to have to submit their business license in order to get it. But I think that's a simple step that we can do to recognize. Okay.
That might be a good, fair and equitable solution. All right, so those are my thoughts.
Thank you. What I would just touch on one of your comments, I don't think at any point when we were discussing this over the last year or so, did we say we were going to fully reimburse any cost of equipment. So we were going to put a number out there that we think could basically pay for a kind of reasonably priced version, and then something above and beyond that would still be the responsibility of the operator. So we're not looking for everyone to go out and buy the $1,000 version and be on the hook for it, and we get only 10 or 20 people.
Right.
With that. So, Councilmember Knight.
I just want to appreciate and also want to ask council, with my earlier comments, I guess it's learning that I started with the question period and went into comments. And so I'm learning, but thank you for your patience. And I just generally, I mean, this is a good discussion and devil's in the details. And I generally support the comments of the other council members and the mayor as we're forming this rebate. And I guess the only thing I would reiterate is maybe it speaks to one of the comments from Denise Hughes, is that if we consider retirement as a part of this program, then we are providing a rebate to someone that's turning in a unit, a gas-powered unit we'd like to see stop being used, and that's the only thing I would hope we would consider is how potential retirement, like Steve mentioned with the California, with our Cash for Grass or the DMV's auto program works, that we try to incorporate that in this program. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's finally my turn. So I'll start with that last comment. I don't want us to take on the responsibility of disposal of old gas-powered units, but I think there's a way we can do that by having to have some kind of proof of retirement. If they are able to prove that they have disposed of it properly, they get some kind of receipt from that. I don't know if those are automatically given, because I don't know exactly where you get rid of a gas-powered leaf blower. But let's assume they do, and they need to get a receipt of disposal, and that might allow them to either then qualify for the rebate or get maybe an additional bit of money from that. We could look at, if we're going to say $100 is the subsidy, it might be $150 if they show proof of retirement of the old unit, just as an example, hypothetical, because it might help with that incentive. Just like I do support the idea of an incentive for converting to at least partial, if not entirely, vacuum. We're going to go around and around about this forever if we argue for or against the insects. You're either blowing the insects or you're sucking them up. And we're going to have people on both sides. And so what we are trying to do is get to a reasonable level of environmental improvement, air quality and ground quality. There is not going to be a 100% solution, but there seems to be a lot more concern about the air quality and what is blown across one yard to another that is less controlled than if there is a controlled vacuuming of debris.
Healthy insects.
You know, we can't solve every single detail.
I know, I just got to speak for them.
Okay, so duly noted. But I do think that it's more important that we're focusing on air quality with this than that. That's my personal opinion, because that's actually human impact. So again, I'm not trying to get in a fight with people that are representing the health of the insects, but I am putting people's health first. I do support putting a number on how many rebates, either per household, which I'm fine with 1 per household, but also with commercial operators, recognizing there are some that have larger staffs and they have multiple clients, including here in Yountville. So there might need to be a proof of how many clients they have. They can't just come in and say, yeah, I work a bunch of Yountville properties, I need 10 rebates. Let's get confirmation of their client list and how many commercial properties versus residential properties. So trying to avoid anyone trying to take advantage of our generosity here, because I believe we'd like to be reaching as many operators as we can and not have this taken up. I mean, we certainly don't want to see what happened with the Paycheck Protection Program at the federal level, where large corporate operators got paid off and small businesses got nothing because the money ran out. And so I don't want us to have that kind of experience here. I do think we need to put a maximum number on how many rebates are available, even with larger operators, again, to distribute as widely as we can. I don't support the idea of pushing to put laminated placards in every business. I think it makes much more sense to go directly to the operators. So that is anyone that has a business permit to operate in town. We can easily send out the rebate, or I'm going to try to stick with subsidy, because rebate makes it sound like we're paying full price for every piece of equipment. So I want to say subsidy. We can give every permitted operator in town information directly in their hands. We can also offer them to any homeowner that would like to have them at their home to hand deliver them to their operator in case that operator is not permitted to operate in town. And frankly, we know there are some. I do want to double check on current costs. I know that when I checked, it was probably late 2019, and there were definitely blowers available for $99 at Eric's Home Depot, I believe. But also, those prices may have gone up. We want to subsidize reasonably. I think 75, 80% is very generous. I do not feel like we have to get to 100%, but let's just find out how much how far our money would go. We may incentivize additional subsidy for early transition. So kind of a middle ground. I'm not in favor of going all the way back to July of this last year. But I would say maybe as of January 1, if people are willing to prove that they have transitioned, they might get $150 instead of $100. And then 4 months later or 3 months later, the subsidy goes down lower. It's encouraging people to buy and transition earlier. Again, I'm going to leave the numbers and the timing to staff to consider and evaluate. I would absolutely require a business license, Yountville business license. I'm not interested in subsidizing American Canyon, Napa, St. Helena, Calistoga necessarily. I think we want to start local and impact our neighborhoods first, even though I do think there will be some extension of the use of the equipment. And then I think I've covered all my notes. The only other thing was actually I already brought up the more accounts mean more rebates. So if you do have more accounts in town, if you're handling 10 or more clients in town, maybe you have a little bit larger subsidy that's available to you, whether it's the number of subsidies or what have you. So because that really does get more inclusivity throughout the town. So those are my
Excuse me, Mayor
thoughts.
Dunbar.
I see your hand. As soon as I'm finished, I will call on you. So again, we're talking about recommendations right now. We're not trying to finalize anything. And so this is just more information for staff to put together another version of this. So yes, Councilmember Dornbecker.
Thank you. I think I just sort of got lost in the shuffle there. So most of what has already been said, I agree with. I do not want to see this program sunsetted. I think that it's, we really might need to make renewal possible, because there can be changes in who is coming into town, who are the operators who are working in town. I think we do need to see their proof that they have the clients in town and how many they have. I think that's fair to ask. I think it's fine to call it a subsidy, but I think it's just as fine to keep it all in one pot and then subsidize out of that one pot, either for a homeowner or for a business. I believe again in the incentivizing, so that those who will do the vacuum, we would prefer to have that. And I tiered on how many clients in town, I think is a good idea. I think that was Councilmember Muller's idea. And calling it the it would be a substantial subsidy. As you said, I think 70–80% is a substantial, and the priority to apply, I think that that's a good idea. And receipt for disposal, I don't want to see us having to get into the business of trying to dispose of gas powered. I think that's going to be hard on us. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's the one thing I thought I had missed. The sunset. I don't think we need a sunset. I think the money runs out. The money runs out. We have the ability to budget again. This is, our first shot at this. I would expect, I'd anticipate this being long-term, but I also think that we need to see how this goes. And then we might determine in our annual budget review, 30,000 is too much or not nearly enough. And so I would see this as an ongoing budget item for consideration. So I'm not so worried about a sunset or an end date on this. I don't see this as really motivating people. I think that motivation is enough that if the money runs out and they haven't applied, then the money's out for at least for that year. Any additional thoughts now that everyone has had a chance to comment as a follow-up from any other members of the council? Has staff received enough feedback to put another round of information together?
Oh, we can bring you many rounds, because I sense that this one's going to take a few, because there are some areas of range of difference, but I would like better clarity on the vacuum and blower for residential. So I'm hearing mixed on, you want both, but a higher amount for a vacuum for residential.
What I think we are all saying, and at least the majority of us are saying, we would like to incentivize the combo, and so that if somebody is going to purchase the combo, they get a higher subsidy for that. It doesn't have to pay for the whole thing.
Right. One way could have been simply to only subsidize the blower, and we'll go get some pricing. One of the reasons the lower, targeted dollar amounts on residential was the residential type of unit costs less. So, I mean, staff has looked at that. That's where that number came from, as being somewhere in the 2/3 for a solid mid-range. Again,
yeah.
Looking at.
And I also believe Councilmember Knight made the good point. I believe that it's not practical to expect commercial operators to plug in, but it's certainly reasonable to expect a resident
and that's
to
why
use an extension cord.
We were anticipating that would be a specific component to the residential. So
I just wanted a reminder for staff research to evaluate cost of multiple batteries, backup batteries.
Yeah, we will have that information. Yeah. And again, I just want to, when we had talked about tiered, we had talked about, 250 to 300 for this level, 500 perhaps for this number of accounts. And that higher dollar amount was meant to reflect some of the additional expense. So we'll try and get you a better understanding and see what we can put together for you.
Thank you. Any last points that anybody wants to make? I think we've given a lot of homework. Councilmember Dornbecker.
I just wanted to thank Erica Teagarden. Thank you so much for the report. It was excellent, and thank you for your work.
And also, I'll follow up. Councilmember Dornbecker and I will be, I'm assuming we're both going to be on the Countywide Climate Action Committee meeting that's coming up on Friday. And we have already brought this up multiple times. I think every meeting we have brought it up that we are planning this, and we will be able to report out at that committee that we are making progress with this. It's not final yet, but we are leading that effort. Okay, thank you very much. A very thorough conversation about this. So to be continued, and we do, I think there is some motivation to get this done soon, so that in early 2021, if we do want to have the ability to incentivize early transition, that we want to take advantage of that opportunity, but with the expectation July 1 is the no later than, not the earliest deadline. So thank you, everyone. Next up, we have staff informational reports. First, Emergency Preparedness Standing Committee update. And I believe, do we have someone that's going to be calling in on this?
Eddie is going to give a brief introduction, and yes, we do have a guest as well.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council members. Tonight, I will be sharing with you an update from the Emergency Preparedness Standing Committee regarding the implementation of a CERT team in Yountville. But to start, I would like to give you a bit of background. After the 2017 wildfires, the Town Council saw a need to help the Yountville community prepare for potential disasters that could affect the town again, as you saw this past year. The Council added the Emergency Preparedness Ad Hoc Committee, and together with town staff, started developing systems to educate our community members on how to prepare for natural disasters. Now, since then, the Ad Hoc Committee has evolved into a standing committee. It has hosted 2 successful townwide emergency preparedness workshops, established the Yountville Neighbor Network, and created an emergency preparedness website with guidelines and downloadable content to help the community have resources to effectively assist them to prepare for a disaster. Now, the Standing Committee is now preparing to add another layer to our emergency preparedness efforts by establishing the first Yountville Community Emergency Response Team, or better known as CERT. A CERT is composed of residents and local businesses volunteers organized and trained to respond to a disaster or an imminent threat of a disaster within town. Now, they operate under the umbrella and authority of the Napa County and with support and training coming from Napa County OES. Now, I will give the floor to the Standing Committee members so they can share any other comments and next steps regarding what we're trying to do with the CERT program for you.
Who's up?
I think I'm up.
Okay.
All right. So first, I wanted to thank my colleague Carrie Dorman and also Ken Arnold, who works with the Office of Emergency Services, who is the instructor for the CERT teams, and also Carrie Hayes and Maria Myers, who are residents who are very interested and have really helped out with, they've been instrumental in organizing this effort so far, and they've been just great. So I want to thank them all. So a CERT team is a group of residents and local businesses organized and trained to respond to an imminent threat of disaster within the town. After the fires in 2017, in June of 2018, I took the CERT training along with my husband, and Vice Mayor Dorman also took the training. And there are other towns in the Napa Valley, American Canyon being one, and Napa being another, that have already stood up the CERT teams. And CERT means the Community Emergency Response Team. So the training is usually, is it 20 hours? Maybe more. I'm trying to remember if it was 20 or 40 hours. It was 2 weekends, 2 full days on each weekend. And there's another one coming up, which thankfully Ken Arnold has joined us. I think I see him. And he will talk about when the trainings are being prepared for in the future. We also have other members of the town who have taken the training, and part of the training is also ham radio operators. So the county uses all of those, but they are specifically trained in such a way that there's a job for everyone, and nobody is going to go beyond their ability to do what they can do. And I think I'll turn it over for a moment to my colleague, Carrie Dorman, until Ken Arnold. Ken, are you there?
Yes, yeah, I'm back.
Ken's joining us. Yeah, let's hear from Carrie, and then we'll go to Ken and hear Ken's comments.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Dornbecker. Yes, it's a pleasure to serve on this committee. The reason CERT works is because it's been around since 1993. It's a national program. And so once you're CERT trained and the incident command system, that all fits together at the disaster site. Another reason that we are coming forward with this is because a big part of the CERT program overall is to foster and educate and train for a culture of preparedness. And that's what we have as a council, and specifically as this ad hoc committee, have been rooting for and trying to get people interested in, is the culture of preparedness, and to remember we're going to be on our own for possibly quite some time before even first responders can get to us. As Eddie said, this will be under the umbrella of the county. And in addition, the good thing about the national program is that it gets tailored down to the county and the city or town in our case. And so what we can also use the CERT team for is non-disaster, non-emergency. Like if we have a large event like Rock the Ride or Yountville Days, we can use some of the team members to do traffic control or to do other things that help us as a town. We have some guidelines that were attached to the staff report. That is the first draft. We are working with the county. I think Marita and Ken will talk some more about the guidelines and how those will come to conclusion. But it's very organized. I think, Marita, you alluded to there's a workplace CERT program specific to that. And I think you and Ken will talk some more about that. So, I mean, we are very, very gung-ho on this. It seems to tick a lot of boxes for us. So I think tonight what we're doing is giving you a little more information than last time and getting you hopefully enthused about it too. So I will turn it back to Marita to say more.
Okay, I'm going to introduce Ken Arnold. Ken was our teacher at Napa Valley College when we learned the CERT training program, and he carries out programs throughout the Valley, and he's a terrific, teacher. There are 3 different levels in the CERT program, and the top level are really the CERT team. The level 1 is made up of volunteers who actually continue their training. They get more comprehensively trained, and they can go out and estimate what the damage is and set up a triage for people who have been injured or help people who are disabled with the correct training, because they go through all of that training. And then level 2 are people who don't have the time really to go through the training all the time, but are like the helpers to the CERT team, number 1 team. And then there's the people like myself and my husband who we're the number 3. So we can help by providing refreshments and helping on the back end in an event. But Carrie and I learned that everywhere we went and talked to the disaster preparedness in other towns in Santa Rosa and in Sonoma, they tell us that in the case of a big earthquake, it could be 72 hours to 5 days before the first responders are able to get to us. So I'm going to ask Ken now to talk a little bit more about the CERT program, because what we ultimately want to do is be integrated into the Napa County CERT program with a team in Yountville. Ken, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. So you want to take it away?
Sure. So again, my name is Ken Arnold. I act as a program manager for the Napa Valley CERT program. And so I sort of help manage all of the overall program for the county. and then I provide a lot of the instruction. As everyone's been saying, I think what CERT really does is it is the civilian responder. So if you look at all of the recent disasters that have hit California, the wildfires that have been in our area, you look at even the COVID response, CERT provides trained trained citizens who are stepping in and augmenting the first responders. And that's what a Yountville team does too. So teams are often assigned to a city, or not assigned, they are affiliated with cities, and they augment a city or town structure. In this case, the town of Yountville, they would augment your emergency response so that they're not replacing your first responders, but they're supporting the first responders. They're supporting the town when disasters hit. I mean, California is a disaster theme park. It's only a matter of time before all of us have some level of emergency where you're stepping out. The other issue are needing to have citizens step in and help augment the first responders, because there's never going to be enough emergency help to go around. And that self-reliance is one of the big themes that CERT really tries to instill, both in the people who are the CERT team, and then CERT trained people who can step in and help. The other big issue that you can use with the other thing for CERT is that teaching self-reliance to your community. So if your community is better prepared, they have a better set of skills, they're going to be less stressed. I mean, anytime you have an emergency, there's a lot of stress involved. There's a lot of issues that have to be dealt with, and having reliable first tier or second tier responders is just going to make that response easier. I think Yountville is a perfect community for a CERT team. I mean, you have community spirit, you have a lot of community involvement, and that CERT team just, I think, feeds that, and will become the green vested people will become sort of a fixture within your community. I think you have a real opportunity to have that happen.
But I wanted to be sure that we make the point that they will be under the jurisdiction of the Office of Emergency Services.
Yeah. So, well, let me be, yeah. So what we do is provide that structure. So if you look at the standard operating guidelines, you look at, so we're providing that structure, we're helping. But I want to also just reiterate or be real clear is, in an emergency, we may ask you to deploy to other places, and in that case, you are truly operating as a county entity. But at the same token, the Yountville team belongs to Yountville. It is a part of the Yountville community, and so it will develop its own personality, around being that. So we won't. I'll provide guidance and structure, but I won't always provide the direct control. That is up to town council and to the team itself working with the town. Unless we bring in, like the fire, that was a team effort. Everybody was operating different missions. We were fully deployed, supporting the glass fire. And in fact, we were in Yountville running the law enforcement support base there at the elementary school.
Thank you. Now, you did mention to me, Ken, that there are trainings coming up in the future.
Yep. Yes, but, and here's the but. The but is, with COVID, we have plans. And right now we're hoping that we're going to start a hybrid course that will kick off in January. I was hoping it was going to start in December, but it looks like the state quite couldn't get the thing together. So we're probably going to be January now, which will be supplemented by hands-on training, which completes that course in late February. Now that's all tentative at this point. So there's a flexibility there. To your other issue that I heard talking about is one of the things that the CERT program does at the county level is we provide, like, for instance, an update training for anybody who's been trained, and that's February 20th. That's every year, basically around that February 20th, 19th, 18th, depending on the year. And there's a skills update. So we're keeping people's skills up. We're making sure that they are continually developing. And this is your level 2, level 3 kind of folks. These are the folks that show up for training once in a while, but don't belong to a team. The team people, who will be in Yountville, those folks get a lot of training. There's almost monthly stuff going on that is right now, a lot of it's been Zoom, but there's a lot of monthly training, and they really get very deep into the incident command system. And in some cases, I will say that their training at the end of it will rival just about any professional rescuer, professional level 1 in the sense of what they do. And then we do training throughout the rest of the year. So we'll offer two live courses, and we'll offer a couple more hands-on throughout the year. So the town of Yountville doesn't have to support that. That's being supported at the county level. And our reason to do that is so that everybody in the CERT program has a common training, common language, common system, so that if the town of Yountville needs help, I can bring CERT people from American Canyon to support them. Conversely, if I need help in the city of Napa, town of Yountville folks could go down. It's sort of like a plug and play kind of training. And actually, we're also working on doing that on both a statewide level, and actually, we're going to start out in the Bay Area, where we have common standards for the Bay Area, and you could get help from anywhere within the Bay Area. And then aside from that, every year we do an actual a combined county drill, where this coming year it's slated to be in Napa, but Yountville could host it, and it's a half-day exercise where we simulate some particular problem, and we do that within one of the communities of CERT.
Thank you, Ken. So right now, the staff and our standing committee are working on the team operations manual provided by the county with Ken, and we're going to be bringing this back to you in January or February to finalize and ask for your blessing on this effort. And I think that looking down the road, it's not if, it's when we may be needed. So in addition to this, of course, we will continue, Vice Mayor Dorman and I, to work on the Yountville Neighbor Network, which is sort of not, it's not this structured. The CERT team has a structure. It has, all kinds of rules and regulations because it has to. But we do plan in 2021 to bring back our workshop when it's possible, but also to provide some fun things like an exercise where we've talked about this with Samantha too, and it's an idea to just incentivize for families and neighborhoods to get together. And what we're thinking of is having a photo contest where people put photos up on Nextdoor Yountville or submit them to Samantha to Park and Rec of what they've already done to prepare. Show us your go bags, show us what you've got to, what your stay bag is, show us in your photos how you're ready. And then at the end of the time period, we'll have a drawing and there'll be prizes, and because we want to really get the neighbors to buy into this. We've had some good meetings with people in different neighborhoods, but we would really like to see this spread into the different neighborhoods, so that they're prepared in their own neighborhood with who's your neighbor, how do you get in touch, do they have special needs, so that they can alert the first responders when needed. So we have a lot of plans for this, but we will be bringing back the CERT team authorization in January or February. And we just wanted to bring it to your attention this evening. And we'll ask Ken to come back when we're ready to make it official, so we can all raise a plastic cup or something. I don't know. But so that we can get this underway, because I get more concerned every time we have an event that we weren't expecting, that we're going to be needed soon. So thank you, Ken. Thank you very much. Does anyone have questions for Ken or any of us?
I think it's been a very thorough presentation, and we have more coming back. So I think I'm anxious to move on. We have quite a bit left tonight, and it's 8:30. But Ken, thank you very much, and thank you for the additional service that you're doing for not only Yountville but throughout the county. I remember probably 15 years ago that I was certified and learned how to properly stack wood to prop up a fallen building. Thankfully, I've never had to use that skill. But and thank you, Councilmember Dornbecker and Vice Mayor Dorman, for continuing to represent the council in this effort. All of it's critical. The only other thing I would mention as a reminder, not to go into it right now, but power shutoffs are another element to all this that we need to be just kind of monitoring and preparing for. So in addition to the other disasters that we have experienced. So thank you all very much for the presentation and the information.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ken. So let's, now I have the great pleasure to welcome back Joe Tagliabashi, and his first week back and first meeting back after an extended recovery period. Joe, it's just great to see you in thumbnail size and looking good. So I won't even give you a hard time about the 15 slides. Looking forward to every single one of them. But again, welcome back, and let's get a capital improvement program update.
Thanks so much, Mayor, members of the council. It is great to be back, and feels like Groundhog Day, because here we are with a capital improvements mid-year update. I'm happy to say that we had 23 projects on this year's capital improvement program. 21 of those are completed or underway, so about 91% of those projects are well underway or completed. Next slide, please, Sam. Here's a little snapshot of the budget totals that you all approved in June for our current budget. As you notice, the capital fund budget, Fund 50, is much less robust than it has been in years past, at just a bit over $300,000. And that's because some of the other bullet points further down the list, the Prop 68, which is we're going to use for the parks, Yountville Community Park restroom, the Oak Circle Path, both are grant funded. Measure T, SB1, and gas tax are all functions of a voter approved measure to improve travelway, and the water, wastewater, capital, and wastewater collection are all utilities, enterprise funds. The biggest number there being the water capital, mostly driven by the current project at Washington Park, trying to get that water line replaced so we don't have disruption of service. Next slide, please. Here we are into the meat and potatoes of the presentation. The repair on the corporation yard roof is complete as of I believe last week. $74,400. This will extend the life of the roof both on the Muni Ops building and the garages. It was getting close to the time where we were going to have to do major repair. And so with this project, we've extended the service life probably at least another 15 or 20 years, which is a good use of funds and leveraging that to extend service life. Next slide, please. Community Wi-Fi hotspot. This has been on the list for quite some time. We don't have any plans to execute this right now. There is an ad hoc committee. We have been in discussions, deep discussions with one provider. You all, I believe, have received a presentation from them. We are still in discussions with them, and one of the benefits of those discussions would be some community Wi-Fi and or a hotspot. And so we're still pursuing that, and we will have more updates as they become available on this topic. Next slide, please. We have finished hydro flushing the weirs from Fennell to Beard Ditch. This was, as you might recall, required by our NPDS permit. There was quite a lot of gravel in the system. We did remove the majority of it, and as a result, it should flow a bit better and not wash sediment down into Beard Ditch. Next slide, please. The new multi-use path from Oak Circle to Mission. This was an older picture, and my apologies for not being able to update it. As the mayor noted, this is my first time back in 6 weeks or so. What you're looking at now is actually concrete. They also have put up a handrail system. We use some of the old sign posts from Yountville back in the days when I moved into town in 89 and 90. Those were the signposts that help navigate town. Now we have a retro reflective requirement, so we've changed the signposts, and we're finding ways to use those posts. And one of them was here along the path at Oak Circle. The plan is to set the bridge sometime in early February, and then we'll have a ribbon cutting of some kind to open up that path. This was $259,000 project. It is grant funded. The majority of the path work is complete. We are waiting on the bridge to be fabricated, and then we will set it in place and open the path. Next slide, please. These are the artist's conception of the upgraded restroom at Yountville Community Park. This would be at the top end of the park, next to the children's playground. It's currently a one restroom facility. As you can see from this drawing, it'll be a 2 restroom facility. The budget for this is $200,000, and the majority of it is funded through the grant Prop 68, voter approved. It's a per capita grant. So we've just finished up doing some of the title search and some of the document gathering that's required as a part of the grant, and we'll be sending that off and be awaiting word that the grant has been funded, and then we'll get on with the construction of the project. Next slide, please. The hydrant repair and replacement. This is ongoing right now. Hydrants have a service life, much like everything else that we have in town. This is something we've been trying to catch up to for a while, and this program will help get this program kickstarted, and it'll probably be a couple of years of this replacement or repair of hydrants. Next slide, please. Oh, the current budget for that is $30,000. Washington Park water main replacement. This is a big project for us this year, along with the Oak Circle path. Project was awarded at $890,695. They started in early October. The budget for this project is a bit over $1 million. We wanted to make sure that if there were some unknowns, that we had enough contingency to complete the project. And of course, anything that's unused in this budget will go back to fund balance for the water replacement, for the water line replacement funds. Next slide, please. This project is nearing completion. They are actually starting to tie the laterals in. The main has all been laid. The valves are all in. The water line was tested, and it's energized now, cut over. So we're actually using the water line to provide water service to the customers. And as we get the laterals turned on, more of the customers will be able to benefit from that, from the water service. It should be complete hopefully by the end of next week, and then paving will follow up hopefully before the end of December, at least the majority of the paving. The JTP, or what we now call the wastewater recycling facility office modernization project. This is a $500,000 project. What you see here is a picture of the office as it sits, where 4 of the operators share an office space that was meant for 2 people. Yeah, the business has changed a little bit. It's much more modernized, a lot more technology and regulatory requirements. And as a part of that, we need to make sure that the plant offices meet the needs of the staff that's working in there. We're just finishing up the design. Hopefully that will go to bid. You all will see the request to go to bid sometime in February or March, and we would expect to go to construction April or May if timing works out. Next slide, please. SCADA controls. So this is a 3-year project to upgrade the SCADA systems. On this year's list is the fuzzy filter, the emergency generator, the sludge heater, and the chemical storage and fuel system monitoring. So what this helps us do, and we've talked about this over a few years now, is do some remote monitoring of the plant and its operations. So our operators can look at their iPad, see what's going on at the plant, make some adjustments, or come into the plant. And in the past, it was literally a pager, a beeper would go off. It would tell them there was an alarm at the plant. It wouldn't really tell them what the cause of the alarm was, and they would have to go to the plant to remedy anything. And now with the advent of SCADA and the implementation of SCADA in our system, we're able to do a lot more remotely in what would have required a trip up to the plant to remedy. So it definitely is helping, and it's becoming more of a regulatory requirement. So we're ahead of the curve on this just a little bit. Next slide, please. Pipe burst to town force main. This is in design, so it's 22,500. We're actually looking for ways right now to use the existing force main, not have that cost, and maybe increase the efficiency at the pump station with a better pump system and a manifold system that helps us manage the inflow from the town's sewer system and not have the cost or the interruption of pipe burst into force main. So we'll have more on that when we finish up with the analysis, and at some point in the next fiscal year, not this one, the upcoming fiscal year, we'll have some recommendations and some decisions to make on what we want to do with the design and engineering that we're getting right now. Next slide, please. So these are annual programs as opposed to the projects that we just talked about. All of this list is an annual setup, and it's not to say that we don't have projects that come out of these programs. For instance, the annual street maintenance and paving program, MT 3021, that's our Measure T program. So that's our annual paving. That's how we pave our streets, and that's how we're now at a 78 PCI, which is the envy of this valley and many cities and towns in the Bay Area. Actually, the GT gas tax program below that is what we use for the design and inspection services for our annual street maintenance and paving program. And then the SB is the SB1. We run that program in-house. We let the contracts and decide the timing. It helps us be more efficient and effective in delivering the paving program because we're not waiting on the contractor to do the concrete work. We found that it's a much more effective way. If we run that program, we get a lot more bang for our buck, and we're not, the timing is more in our control as opposed to the contractor controlling it on the paving side. Similar programs with the ADA and the townwide drainage and the surveys and monuments program as well. Next slide, please. This slide is talking about our enterprise programs, the utility programs. So the first 2 bullets, inflow and infiltration, and the sewer main and replacement and repair program, are a part of our MPDES permit. They are required by the regulators. Right now, the inflow and infiltration, or I&I, is an $82,500 per year program. The sewer main replacement is an $80,500 program. So that's how we help reduce our inflow and infiltration in our collection system here in town. to the extent we can reduce inflow and infiltration, that's really fresh water that's flowing in to our pipes, either through cracks or some failure in the system, and we're basically treating fresh water. So to the extent we can reduce the treatment of fresh water, it helps keep the rates lower and help keep our plant from being overcapacitated, especially during storms. That's when we notice it. The next three bullet points, plant equipment replacement, town pump station, and the water meter replacement are all there as placeholders. And if something fails, then we can access that program, but it's really there to build fund balance for when we actually have to replace something substantial. Next slide, please. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on our mid-year update for our CIP.
Joe, thank you very much. Great to hear your report again. And I did just witness that concrete that's poured on that path, so I can confirm that. Any questions of that report? No. Thank you. Very thorough. Keep making that progress. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Nice to be back. Thank you, Mayor.
Nice to have you back. Don't do it too much. Take it easy.
Yeah, exactly. My wife tells me that often, believe me.
That's right. All right, we're going to move quickly through council meeting reports and comments. No report on Napa Flood Control. Napa Valley Transportation Authority. Vice Mayor, do you have a report?
A quick one. We met on November 18th. The Soskull Junction project is now fully funded and expected to break ground in 2022. We did give a presentation to Mayor Jill Teckle because she is retiring, and to thank her for her service on that board, and also our outgoing human resources manager of long time, wonderful person, Carrie Sanderlin. We reviewed 5-year forecasts and Q1 financials. We got an update on the Vine Transit ridership and routes. And we had continued discussion of the possible financing of a maintenance facility that we are planning. And that included the amendments to the joint powers agreement that we approved on our consent agenda. And we are looking at the possibility of having a private construction loan to try to finish out the funding on that. So more to come.
Thank you. Let's go to, do we have an Upper Valley Waste Management report?
No, we are planning to meet in January.
Okay.
And LAFCO is meeting on Monday, the 7th.
Very good. Watershed information?
There was not a meeting for several months, and it has been moved into the planning department in Napa County. Once again, it was there, then they moved it out, now it's back. And we're going to be meeting once a quarter next year. So I'll let you know when I have more info.
Thank you. I'll be very brief with the League of California Cities update. There's a lot going on, but just some highlights. League leaders with mayors and council members was held Monday to update on legislative activity and strategies for the upcoming 2021 legislative year. I was on a call Monday night, that was last night. Nothing like those 8:30 p.m. calls with the governor's office. Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of substance. It was a lot of the mayors from the 13 big city mayors and members of the league officers talking about the possibility of the governor extending the more restrictive stay-home order in the future. That has not yet happened up here, but it has happened in Santa Clara County and it's happened in LA, and it is looming. So we need to be aware of the possibility of even further tightening beyond just the curfew stay-at-home order that's 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. There might be more restrictions coming up depending on the COVID-19 data that's forthcoming. Just a quick reminder on that. We will not see the COVID-19 results from the Thanksgiving holiday for at least a week, potentially 2 weeks. So there will be definitely a delay. And if there is any additional surge from air travel and other Thanksgiving activities. So I mixed in a little county report in the league stuff here. The League Finance Committee will be meeting on December 4th. League Board of Directors meeting will be on December 11th. So I'll report out on anything that is of particular interest to us. I will go ahead and just keep moving to council ad hoc standing committee reports. Countywide Climate Action Committee, as I mentioned earlier, is meeting this Friday, December 4th. One of the things we will be talking, well, the things we have on the agenda, priority setting for what we plan on for our meeting calendar in 2021, but also discussing initial steps for the possible, it's not definite, but possible creation of a joint powers authority. And I just wanted to add, for dramatic effect, the light going out. Jason, he's getting his steps in just by running out from the back room to turn the lights back on for me. Thank you. But we will be meeting this Friday to discuss the possibility and what a joint powers authority or some other structure would look like, and what the financial and staff commitments might be made for that. So Councilmember Dornbecker and I can report out after that. The Council Zoning and Design Ordinance Ad hoc Committee has a meeting scheduled for December 9th. So we will also be reporting out on that. Are there any other ad hoc or standing committee reports? Seeing none. The last thing I wanted to report out on, two things, as was just mentioned tonight, same time as what we've been doing here. The Napa City Council was saying farewell to longtime Napa Mayor Jill Teckle. Tonight is her last meeting. She has been the mayor in Napa for, I think it's 5 terms, something like that, a couple decades. And she has chosen to move on to the next chapter in her life that does not include 24-hour, 7-day-a-week public service. So congratulations to Mayor Teckle. Also, I want to say congratulations to our town staff, especially Samantha, also Jennifer, and all the other staff members that worked in conjunction with our Yountville Chamber of Commerce, Whitney Diver McAvoy, as well as her team, Jennifer and Elizabeth, and others that put together, as always, every year, a fantastic launch of our holidays in Yountville, bringing Santa Claus to Yountville, thanks to all of CAL FIRE Station 12, who make sure he arrives safely the last mile from his long journey from the North Pole. I also want to remind folks that Santa's Village is set up in our Yountville Community Center Plaza, so please take a look at that. That was a great job done there as well. The tree lighting went off on time. The countdown is always interesting, but it worked perfectly. And then we had a little extra bonus time with Santa as he was waving to folks as they came by from a physically distanced location. Also, just a quick tease for our Town of Yountville programming. Santa is going to be Zooming with some good boys and girls throughout the month of December. And you can find that out, Samantha, I think, on our Town of Yountville website. Is that correct?
Yes, it's under townofyountville.com/events, and we just have posts out on nextdoor.com today trying to give our residents about a week in advance to sign up before it opens to the general public. So.
Great, thank you. And also, please go to yountville.com, the chamber website, to see all the great virtual events that they have planned throughout the holiday season through the end of December. And please enjoy the lights. I drove through there before coming into the council meeting tonight, and it is that magical time of year. It's also a bit of a stress reliever, so we all can use some of that these days. So please enjoy holidays in Yountville. Also, it was mentioned before, but it's worth mentioning again. Thank you to former council member Jeff Durham. And I know Joey was there in spirit if he wasn't actually helping do all the heavy lifting, but thank you for continuing the tradition of the Thanksgiving dinner. It was to go delivery only, but it was at least the opportunity to make many families able to have a classic Thanksgiving traditional meal. So that's all I have. I believe that takes care of our open session business. We do have.
Well, I have one more comment.
Councilmember Moeller.
I just wanted to report out that I've been attending both the state vaccine advisory committee groups, as well as the White House international government special COVID teams, just to kind of stay on track of the vaccines that are coming out. I'm very excited about both of them. The Pfizer one, the FDA's meeting is December 10th, and the Moderna one is December 17th, and both are saying they're going to ship within 24 hours. So the state is putting plans in place right now. What they're working on is there's going to be 5 phases, and they're breaking up phase 1 into A and B, and then there'll be phase 2, 3, and 4. So we're really just focusing on phase 1A right now. And we should be following more than likely the CDC recommendation, which we expect is going to be the vaccine 1A will be healthcare workers, and as well as residents in nursing homes and long-term care. I'm not sure if the veterans home is considered long-term care, but it's a possibility that it is. And so I'll keep you posted. Our next meeting is December the 9th.
Thank you. And that did come up. Yeah, that did come up in that late night meeting last night with Dr. Galley and the cabinet members of the governor's office to, but also to not set expectations that the general public is going to see this distribution anytime soon.
No, the general public is, you know, out in phase, you know, 3 and 4. So, and
the numbers I heard last night and today are that the distribution to California won't even cover all the healthcare workers. So it's going to be a slow process, but at least we're getting very close to it starting, which is great news and very encouraging.
I'm very excited about it too.
Continuing to monitor that, and any substantive updates, certainly we will be distributing that through our usual social media channels that Eddie and other staff members are so good at getting out basically daily, but even sometimes more often than that. So we will all.
Okay, I've got PowerPoint slides from the last few meetings. I can forward those to Steve.
Great.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. Okay, so I see Councilmember Knight, your hand is raised.
Yes, thank you. Just as a new person here, I wanted to thank the mayor and the council members and town staff for all the work you've done for the community this year. I know the community appreciates it. And I also wanted to just lastly to reiterate the public comment from Billy Hewitt about the Can Do Give guide this year. Because of the COVID pandemic, it is online at candogiveguide.org. It's an opportunity for the residents of the Valley or all from December 1 to December 31st to give to some nonprofits in this valley that do good work. And this year we have the opportunity for to also give donations to the Veterans Homes Association and the good work they do at the Vets Home to help improve the quality of life of the veterans. And so thank you again for all that everyone here has done for our community this year.
Thank you. And Samantha, I want to give you a heads up. I wanted to give you an opportunity to remind folks about the Yountville Kiwanis at-home edition crab feed.
Thank you. Yeah, so we're really excited to have be moving forward with the crab feed with Kiwanis. I am the president of Kiwanis, and we have quite a few members on my screen right now too. But we're going to be doing a pickup dinner for the crab feed, and still really focusing on it as a fundraiser and how important that fundraiser is to all the different organizations that our Kiwanis Club supports each year, and how they need that support now more than ever. So it's not going to be the same, but we really want people to help us to continue raise funds, pick up the dinner, enjoy it at home with your party pod, and then we'll also have an online auction that will premiere that week as well. So thanks, John. So you can visit KiwanisYountville.com, and tickets are on sale right now.
It's very easy to buy those tickets and buy the raffle tickets and the other
the instant wine cellar.
Well, I was going to suggest the instant wine cellar, but we know that our town manager is going to win that because he wins all the raffle prizes anyway. And we do expect to see our town manager wearing his crab hat in
Yes.
virtual space
Oh,
this
good.
year as well. With that, we are going to go into closed session for the reason listed, conference with legal counsel, initiation of litigation, potential case 1. I better read it because Gary's listening. Government Code 54956.9D4. Right, Gary?
That's correct.
All right. So we are going to go in closed session. Do we anticipate any reportable action?
There may be, and if so, and for those who don't hang on to the end of the meeting, it will be included in the minutes for tonight's meeting and also from the town clerk tomorrow upon request.
Can we have a 5-minute break?
Yes. So we will say goodbye to the general public and all non-closed session staff, and council will just take a 3-minute comfort break. Right back.
Can you let the public know when we're adjourning to?
We are, I'm sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
Would you mind letting the public who may be listening know where we're adjourning to, and then I'm going to close everything out?
Yes, so we are going into closed session. We will adjourn after we come back from closed session to our town council special meeting of Tuesday, January 5th. We do not have another meeting scheduled for this December. So Tuesday, January 5th at 3 p.m.
Okay, thanks,
Happy
Mayor.
holidays, Yountville.
Yeah.
Thanks. We'll go ahead and go into closed session.
Let me